Mark, you awake yet?
No.
He's struggling this morning.
Those last 2 days of early wake-ups and late nights, they're starting to catch up to me. Starting to feel it a little bit.
Well, you stay up till like 11 or 12 every night, don't you?
Unintentionally it was yesterday. Yeah, I didn't mean to stay up that late, but, kids went to bed early. I'm like, hey, let's watch some Peacemaker or something. So I watched like 3 episodes. I'm like, I should have probably stopped at 2.
Rather watch Bears-Vikings for a second time through?
I'd rather get kicked in the boys than watch that again.
I thought maybe you watch the first quarter at least.
First quarter was good. Second quarter was good. And then, second half, no thank you.
All right, so we're off and running on a Wednesday today. We've got a lot going on, getting ready for more NFL football coming up this weekend. The way it works, again, more NFL tomorrow night already. We'll talk about that in a minute. But last night, guys, James, I'll start with you. The Indiana Fever, most wins in a season in franchise history. I realized that the best player maybe in the league wasn't playing for Minnesota last night, but the Fever just handled the Lynx and improved to 24-20 heading into the postseason in a year of 44 games in the regular season, of which Caitlin Clark missed 31.
Yeah, and it's a remarkable feat just because you have so many people that got injured this season, so many people out for the season. The season record thing is always funny to me as well, though, because it's like, well,
yeah,
you didn't play 44 games 5 years ago. So, context is everything. But still, to be 4 games above 500 to end the year is nothing short of remarkable considering everything you had to overcome. And now we kind of wait. The Fever are the 6th seed. If the Lynx beat the Valkyries tomorrow, they're the 7th seed if they beat if the Lynx, I'm sorry, if the Valkyries win on Thursday. So we will see how that all kind of shakes out. I mean, they can get the Dream or the Aces in the first round. And if you're asking me, I would rather see the Dream because the Aces have won 15 straight and they might have the MVP again in Asia Wilson.
Yeah, crazy stuff. And Kevin, when you think about it, I know it sounds repetitive. We've talked about it, but really, 24-20 in a league that only has 13 teams, which means a lot of teams are stacked with 2, 3, sometimes even 4 really good players. To have 5 players over the course of the year out for the season with injury, including arguably your best player, really is remarkable that this team is 4 games over 500 heading into the postseason.
Well, and don't forget the DeWanna Bonner drama as well. That was quite the offseason acquisition and quite the exit for her early in the year. So, yes, the Fever will have a home playoff game. They'll open up on the road coming up Sunday, and then, midweek next week, Tuesday, I think, maybe right around there, they will have a home playoff game. So, Great job by Stephanie White and company. When we had Pat Boylan on yesterday, I was just kind of like, Pat, let's leave it open-ended. You tell us about this roster because that's kind of where you're at once you get past the Mitchells, the Bostons, the Halls. I think Natasha Howard fans have grown to know over the season. So, hell of a year. And I just think it's been cool to have Kelsey Mitchell get more of the frontline moment. She is such a decorated scorer. She was in college. She has been in the WNBA. She is easily one of the best, probably outside of Tamika Catchings, the best player ever to put on a Fever uniform. Obviously, careers for Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston will continue to happen, but set the all-time franchise record for most points per game in a season last night in eclipsing 20. So I think that's been a fun story this season of her getting her flowers, her getting her due. Because she's a hell of a player.
I also think it's remarkable that people have been showing up all season long. I know Caitlin Clark was initially the draw, but it feels like the fans of the Fever have kind of fallen in love with this team, and they've kept supporting them. They keep showing up, and I know Caitlin's on the bench every night, but it's just amazing to me. Again, yesterday I was out walking around at lunchtime, and I saw 22 T-shirts, jerseys, Fever T-shirts and jerseys and hats and stuff all over downtown last night. Regardless of whether Caitlin's been there or not this year, the fans have shown up to support this team.
Yeah, they're probably the most popular team in the WNBA, and I'm very curious to see how they'll utilize that popularity with perhaps playing at different venues. I know we threw it out there months ago about could they have a game at Lucas Oil Stadium. No one ever really gave a straight answer on that, but I would love to experience something like that. But nevertheless, yeah, it's just different. I mean, I remember covering the team a couple years ago, pre-Aaliyah Boston, pre-Caitlin Clark, when Kelsey Mitchell was the one, kind of putting the team on her back. And it was tough. It was some dark days, dark moments for the franchise. But you look up now, and they're smiling and dancing. And we'll see if they can keep dancing now that they're into the playoffs.
Yeah, I see, Kevin, now low-key, you've been kind of disappointed in the Irish, and you're keeping expectations down. But I also know that each of the days this week you've been showing up with Notre Dame, either hat or a T-shirt or something else. Is that just because that's what's in the closet, or are you kind of low-key still really excited about this football season?
Probably more the former. I'm a loser, and that's like 90% of my apparel.
Okay, fair enough.
That's how I feel wearing the Illinois hoodies and stuff. Like, it's not really a conscious choice in the morning. You just grab what's clean and get out the door.
I think Maddie's generally pretty disgusted of how much Notre Dame apparel I own and choose to wear. So, yeah, I guess I am still excited. I do feel like it's been a while. They have Texas A&M coming up Saturday night in South Bend. That is a rematch of last year's opener. Notre Dame won down there in College Station. So, yeah, I can't wait. And if they win this one, that'll be 4 straight over the SEC, which for Notre Dame, that's not something they've said a whole lot.
And Purdue, off to the 2-0 start. We've talked about that this week. But they got a big test coming up this weekend, James, because USC, not the powerhouse that they've been in past years or anything, but still pretty – they know how to put points up on the board, and that could be dangerous for a team like Purdue.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one for sure to check out. And I think this is kind of like most college teams. You get that first real test. Okay, the cupcakes are out of the way a little bit. How you look in your first conference game. And so I am excited to see what the Purdue Boilermakers can do, and they're trying to do something special. So it's hard to be at 2 wins. I mean, you're probably feeling a lot better than we were this time last year, right?
Double the total, right?
Yeah, it's like not to troll, but I mean, you got to start somewhere, and they started off pretty strong here.
One thing to note about Purdue so far, because they are definitely not very talented. I thought I saw they were the least penalized team so far in the Big Ten, and they only have 1 turnover through 2 games. So, just again, I know that might sound elementary, but frankly, under Ryan Walters, they didn't even look like that at times. So, is that a step in the right direction? Now, look, I mean, they're a 21-point underdog. I said to you guys yesterday, that is beyond disrespectful. Unranked team traveling 3 time zones, and they're a 21-point favorite in your own building. And, of course, last year it was all this hype around the Notre Dame game, and then what happened? We obviously know how that game went and how the rest of the season unfolded there. So, should be a fun day up there in West Lafayette. I know they're honoring the Rose Bowl team from 25 years ago, and they get the CBS slot. I think, is that their former quarterback? Is that Gary Danielson in that 3:30 window there for Purdue and USC?
Been a minute, but yeah, I think so. I'll have to look and double check, but I think I might have read that earlier.
Mark,
in the
we had
week,
him on last year prior to that Notre Dame game, if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken.
Yes,
right?
we did. Yep.
Good stuff.
I put a friendly wager on Purdue and the point spread.
A little bit of the Ball
A
State
friendly
Auburn
one.
thing.
What constitutes a friendly wager?
Well, I'm friendly because I put money on Purdue, on Purdue football, which I normally wouldn't do. But a 21.5 point spread is just kind of crazy to me. So I'm like, okay, let's have some fun on a Tuesday that I did.
I like that. And we're going to be talking about Purdue a little bit later on. What's our guest situation this morning, Mark?
A usual Wednesday guest, Stephen Holder, going to stop by at the top of the hour at 8 o'clock to discuss Colts Dolphins as well as preview Colts Broncos. And then Tom Deanhart going to join us at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour to preview that very game we're just discussing.
I like it. And I'm just curious, too, for you, the friendly wager is what, $5, $10? What's that go?
Yeah, I mean, we had a listener that was like, I had a pretty good week 1, and he won thousands of dollars in some of these bets, but he was also throwing down like $40, $50 a bet. I'm like, boy, I'm not even in that range. $5 there
That's James Boyd stuff right there.
I put $10
Oh, no, it's
down.
not. I'm like, look, I love you, but, unlike the guy to the left of me, I don't have rooms you can stay in my house. So you better make sure that you cash on these bets.
All right. We got a lot to do today. A lot of football on tap. A little bit more about the Fever advancing to the WNBA playoffs. Nice little nugget to tell you about in Major League Baseball coming up in just a moment when we check things down. But we're off and running on a Wednesday. Hump Day here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Happy Wednesday morning. Welcome into the Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. We will start over at the Fieldhouse last night. The regular season comes to a close for the Indiana Fever in their WNBA season. 24-20 on the year. They close it out with an 83-72 win over Minnesota. First time all year, James Boyd, that the Lynx have been beaten wire to wire. Fever started out with a 10-0 run and never trailed in the game.
Yeah, that certainly helps when you don't have to face MVP candidate Nafisi Collier, but nevertheless, it is a big win for the Fever, who are now between the 6 or 7 seed. We'll find out officially tomorrow what seed they land. And again, they can play the Aces or the Dream, and I'll prefer the Dream because the Aces have been rolling lately.
Kevin, 5 Fever players in double figures. Kelsey Mitchell had 18. Aaliyah Boston, 12 points, 8 boards. Natasha Howard had 10 points, 7 rebounds. And Odyssey Sims continues to be a revelation. She scored 15 points last night getting a start.
Yeah, former high pick. Pat Boylan hit on her and kind of her story. Unlike some of these others, she definitely had a decorated resume before coming here. I saw the clip Chloe Peterson from the Star covers the Fever tweet out last night of Sydney Colson grabbing the mic there to start the fourth quarter from our guy B Swift and getting the crowd ready for the postseason. I did have to love that moment there. So, yes, a home playoff game for the first time in a long time for the Fever. And I think, is that Tuesday, Wednesday, something next week?
Yeah, they haven't announced those yet. It's likely that the playoffs would start Sunday for the Fever. We don't have confirmation on that.
We know Sunday, yes.
So, well, Sunday is for sure, but then we don't know if it's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on what the schedule is made up of and who gets what seed and things like that. So hopefully we'll know in the next 48 hours or so exactly how that's going to roll. But playoff basketball for the Indiana Fever, despite the fact that Caitlin Clark missed 2/3 of the season, basically.
Still best of 3 format in round 1. I know they've changed best of 7 for the finals, but it will be that best of 3. So somehow, some way, you can go get game 1 on the road. Oh, boy. Game 2 in your own building to close it out would be a hell of an atmosphere.
All right. Yesterday, day off for the Indianapolis Colts as they get ready to host the Denver Broncos at Lucas Oil Stadium on Sunday. Right now, the Colts are 2.5-point underdogs, and the over-under on this one is 42.5. And I think I like the under on that one right now, the way the Broncos defense played last week and the way their offense played as well, and the way the defense came through for the Colts. We might be looking at one of those 2013 defensive struggles in this one.
I would guess 42 is probably one of the lower over-unders in the entire NFL.
And I still like it.
in week 2. So, yes, the Denver team, I mean, they were one of the best sacking teams in the entire NFL last season. They brought back virtually everybody. 6 different guys sacked Cam Ward in week 1 in their win there. Tennessee, despite that, really hung in there, and they got some short fields. Denver turned it over quite a bit there. So, I think it's going to be a really good matchup. Again, 4 o'clock window here for the Colts and Broncos. Coming up in week 2, we'll see where the Colts are at health-wise. They did sign a cornerback to their practice squad yesterday. Again, Mooney Ward in concussion protocol. Jalen Jones, still nothing official on that, but I would expect him to miss some time with the re-injury of his hamstring.
All right, off to a 1-0 start for the first time since 2013. Some college football news to tell you about. It's not really football news, but James, I thought of you when I saw this yesterday. An alum and the son of an alum at Illinois, Larry Gies. Have you ever heard of him? Gies, Gies?
I never heard of any of these people who donate this money.
$100 million he donated to the Illinois athletic program. They're going to name the stadium after him now.
Yeah, I got a kick out of somebody texting the chat line, or the text line, I'm sorry, and they screenshotted that announcement and told me, hey, James, is that you? And I was like, no chance, They're getting my monthly installments of my student loan payments, and I'm hoping they put that towards something good, like, maybe a cup holder or something like that in this new stadium. But, yeah, it's pretty crazy because, again, when I was in school, football team was terrible, men's basketball was terrible, women's basketball was terrible, and all 3 programs now are rolling and very good. So shout out to my alma mater.
Well, a lot of money being thrown around by those who have it yesterday. The Broncos announced that they are going to build a brand new stadium in Denver. It's going to be privately funded by the Walton Penner family. No taxpayer money involved whatsoever. And they're actually going to tear down the stadium that they have right now and give the land back to the city and county of Denver. Private money.
I was going to say, I never really hear this from owners or anybody for that matter when it comes to building arenas or stadiums. So respect.
I hear a bunch of owners in the NFL going, why are you doing that?
Yeah, it's for real.
They got that Walmart money.
I was going to say, I don't think
why.
the Bears are doing the same thing, Mark.
Hell no.
One other NFL note, Jalen Carter is going to he basically get time served. They said the game he missed without playing a game the other night after spitting
That's so trash.
on an opponent is enough. Game suspension,
And
basically.
it was like $54,000 fine or whatever. It's like, that was weak.
Yeah,
I
it took his
hated it.
game check, but I think that is extremely weak for them to tell us, oh, he actually was suspended already. No, he wasn't. He came out there to play a game. He acted like a dummy, and he got thrown out of that game.
He was dressed to play.
Like, he was so dumb in that moment that he got suspended before he could register a snap. So I get it. They were talking about historical precedents. They usually don't suspend guys for spitting, but set a new precedent, in my opinion. So I had to read that notification twice, Kevin, because I got so confused at first.
No, I would agree wholeheartedly with you, James. And I was a little surprised they didn't view it as an opportunity to reset the precedent. That surprised me a bit there. So, and then you had just kind of this PR spin with Rosenhaus and Chef.
I saw that.
All of it just seemed very odd.
Wait a second. His guarantees in his contract won't be affected by this. And I'm like, and if they were, he spit on somebody. But nevertheless.
Yeah, just all real murky to me.
Not good. We were talking about the U.S. men's national team in soccer yesterday, and they did get a win over Japan last night, 2-0 at the Lower.com field just east of us in Columbus, Ohio. But Mauricio Pochettino, the head coach, the manager, saying he's upset that people are taking shots at his players. Quote, I prefer that people criticize me, but don't touch the player. I hope in the future criticize me, but let the players play free, go and perform. Well, keep winning 2-0 and nobody will be mad.
So we need that Stephen A. Smith meme, Mark, where it's like, we don't care at all.
Major League Baseball, this will give you something to care about before we get to the local scores. Kyle Schwarber, Indiana's own, becomes the first National League player to hit 50 home runs this season last night. He is just on fire.
Isn't this like Ryan Howard territory?
I think it was the second Philly player, right?
Yeah.
Besides Ryan Howard to reach that mark there.
That is remarkable.
Schwarber, the legend, continues.
Yeah, the Phillies did beat the Mets by a score of 9-3 last night. Meanwhile, Cubs did get a win 6-1 over the Braves. While you were watching other kinds of TV, did you pay attention to the baseball game at all?
Yeah, I saw that they won. I was like, very good. That's what you should do against a bottom-tier team in the Braves this year, so take care of business.
All right.
Keep it rolling.
Snapped a 3-game losing streak for the
Sound
Cubs.
like you're treating the Cubs like you treat one of your daughter's potty training. Yep, that sounds, good job. Take care of business.
All three are potty trained. I threw the last little, seated thing. I threw it in the garbage today for garbage day. Get out of here. We don't need it anymore.
What a great feeling.
I know.
My second favorite player in baseball, Pete Crow Armstrong, had a couple of RBIs in that game.
He's
Wait, you're a Reds fan and your second favorite player is a Cub?
Who's my favorite player? Who's my favorite player?
I don't care. You can't be having
You can still
Cub
respect and like a guy.
Respect and calling him your second favorite player are two very different things.
I'm just saying I love the way he plays baseball. Is that okay?
No.
The loyalty.
Can you
is-
imagine if Mark sat here and was like, well, Ellie De La Cruz is my second favorite player.
I hope that every time they play the Reds that he goes 0-4.
Colts fans.
But I
Well,
still
Tom
like
Brady
watching him
was my
play.
second favorite player.
Speaking of Ellie De La Cruz.
Not only was it long, but it was deep and wide. People excited. Reds did beat the Padres late last night by a score of 4-2. They probably just finished that up right before we came to the studio.
That would be like me saying, you know who I really like outside the Cubs? That Paul Goldschmidt on the Cardinals.
Yeah, Mark's wearing a Jordan Love jersey into the studio coming up tomorrow here.
Yeah, I'm
He's a great guy.
I'm mellowing as I get older. Here.
Aaron
That's how
Rodgers
that
isn't
works.
so bad, guys. I was wrong.
Shout out to Colts legend T.Y. Hilton. Saw yesterday going into the Florida International Ring of Honor. He's the first football player to go into their Ring of Honor. They've only been playing football for a little over 20 years there. I always feel this way about T.Y. I think he's one of the more beloved Colts inside and outside of that locker room. Players adored it. His teammates loved him. I don't know if Colts Ring of Honor will be there for him at some point, but he is one of, again, the more beloved Colts. Andrew Luck, everybody loved him, and I think fans really enjoyed watching T.Y. You want to talk about a wideout that just kind of went about his business? Very minimal diva-ness. Great player. Hell of a draft pick by Ryan Grigson, trading back into round 3 for him. So shout out to T.Y. Hilton, as James Boyd did the T.Y. right there on the YouTube.
Yes, he should get into the Ring of Honor off the strength of wearing that mask to Houston and then destroying them.
First third down of the game, Frank Reich says, boom, we're going right to you, T.Y.
I know.
Hilton.
To walk in with that amount of confidence and to deliver it like that, respect. You know me, I love Petty. So, and it might not be in the Ring of Honor. He should be, but if not, make a wall of Petty for him.
Tell the equipment staff to go to whatever Value World or wherever they got the clown mask in
exactly.
Houston.
That might be my favorite all-time stadium entrance walk. Is him with the clown mask up there. Also, you think, based on our prior conversation, you think the TY is beloved with the Tennessee Titan fans? Just would light Tennessee and Houston up all the time, wouldn't he?
Well, Houston for sure.
Yeah,
Houston, he was their daddy.
There's no question about that. Anything else you guys want to throw in before we move along here?
Sounded like a nice atmosphere inside of Hinkle last night. I know the Shondells are big volleyball names in the state. Purdue, the father, playing the son at Butler there. Over 3,000 people at Hinkle. So nice little weeknight local event up there at Hinkle.
All right, and the Cubs were winners over the Iowa Cubs were winners over the Indianapolis Indians 7-0 in 11 innings last night. How about that? You don't get 7-0 in 11 innings very often. But,
Not usually, but it was dollar night, so hey, hopefully you had a lot of hot dogs out there.
They will play again tonight. Actually, this afternoon, 1:35. The Indians hosting the Iowa Cubs. If you want to get away downtown for a little businessman special over there. All right, coming up in a minute, we'll talk more about the Colts getting ready for the Denver Broncos. We might even have some Pacers talk sometime this morning here as we edge closer and closer to another NBA season just a couple of weeks away. And the text line is open at 239-1070. You want to give us your thoughts on anything you saw, heard, or want to talk about, that's always open for you. You can call us up at that number as well, 239-1070, right here in the DriveHubler.com studios. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Morning Show.
Every couple of years, Marian University hosts the National Collegiate Cycling Championships.
Okay.
The school that I happen to attend in college is also a cycling powerhouse. I happen to know the coach. They always send a large contingent of folks, 8 to 10 riders on each side, the male and female side.
Okay.
Last time we hosted the men, this time the women will stay at our house. Man, when I go home tonight, my house is going to be full of like a dozen college women. And you were like, wait, what?
I just can't stop thinking about your high school age sons.
I know. They're going to have the time of their lives.
This is like the coolest thing I've ever seen.
The wildest thing is you have a dozen people staying for how long at your house?
Probably 5 days.
5 days for a
free.
dozen strangers.
Jeff
Rounded
is
up
hosting
your-
Love Island from his house.
No, I'm not going to judge you based off your zodiac. Okay, I am, but not like fully going to judge you.
I've gotten to know some of these kids over the years. Some of the coolest people I've.
I don't care how cool they are. I played in my house for 5 days. Get the hell out of here.
I think I'd much rather prefer to be in a hotel if I were them. It sounds horrific to me.
How many people are in your house currently? Before the baker's dozen come, how many currently? 17 people?
Unless you bought Jim Irsay's estate,
I was about
this
to say, it
sounds
sounds
awful.
like Jeff is doing pretty well. All these rooms you got.
It's another bejeweled, bedazzling lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Can you get a picture with you just sitting in the middle of everybody?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
This is going to be like him on like The Bachelor or something.
The Golden Bachelor.
Leslie, will you accept this rose?
Do you want the house tour? I could take you to
I am a happily married man, just so you know, Mark Dykton. That's how that works. As it turned out, only 6 women this year. I got home last night, taking Grant around and tennis practice and all that kind of stuff. And by the time we got home, there were 6 college cyclists there, and they were making themselves dinner. My oldest son, James, was just buried in trigonometry last night. His mom was over there in the corner helping him study right there. Grant had calculus to do. There was not a lot of interaction between the two boys
I am
and
thoroughly
the
disappointed.
young women. What do you
thoroughly
want?
disappointed.
What do you think is going on there?
I mean, you can at least say what's up. I'm not going to be that, I'm definitely not going to be that involved with trigonometry to not say hello to the women in my kitchen. There's no way.
Jake's been
You
a little
got
stressed
a
about
small
trig this
window
year.
of opportunity here.
I'm like,
Let's take
yeah, man,
advantage
first
of
impressions
this.
are everything.
Never going to see these women ever again.
You have to know my youngest too, Grant, he's totally a math guy. Math and science are his thing. And I was kind of teasing him and telling him what we were talking about yesterday. I said, I don't know, buddy. You got all these young women in the house this week. And he goes, Dad, I'm a junior. I don't think I'm going to go for anybody over 18. 16 to 18 is my range, he says.
Lord. Jeez.
So there you go.
I'll let you
there you go.
pivot.
Boy.
We're going to do a cougar exposition here.
Is that what it
To
is?
be 17 and be picky as hell. I mean, come on. man.
yeah.
Good-
I didn't have that luxury.
All I'm saying is if I got a little homework
happily take whatever
and I
can
have
get.
some college students around, I'm going to ask for help.
Yeah.
You
Anybody
probably
want to
took
tutor
calculus
me?
trigonometry before?
I have a question.
Exactly.
Can I
By
get
the
a
way,
study buddy?
Jeff, I did go on Denver radio yesterday. I believe maybe your old college colleague, Jim Davis. Is that correct? Does that ring a bell at
From
all?
like Grand Junction, Colorado?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah. And he asked if you were still in the cycling game, and
Oh.
I brought up that you were.
Definitely.
I don't get to
in the
ride that
cycling
much
game.
anymore, maybe a couple times a week, but
And
yeah,
I-
we
and I-
definitely are
I shared,
helping people
shared
out.
the story. Basically, I pretty much played the clip that Mark just played right there for Jim, and he was very happy that you were
Well,
hosting.
there you
the
go.
Colorado Mesa Cyclers.
Yeah, so there'll be if you're interested in that kind of thing over at the Major Taylor Velodrome over there near Marian University, starting tomorrow, there'll be all kinds of stuff going on out there. So it'll be a lot of fun. If you're into that kind of stuff. We also love the National Football League. We love the Indianapolis Colts. You guys a little put off, like I'm looking through the ESPN power rankings this morning. The Colts were 23rd. 23rd after that dominant win over the Miami Dolphins.
I am not surprised. The Dolphins are probably, 32nd? So at some point, you've got to be somebody good. And not to discredit what the Colts did, because when you face a bad team, you're supposed to beat them like that. But, yeah, I think you got to do a little bit more work to climb the rankings.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little surprised that they're 23rd. I mean, do we have preseason rankings in the NFL? Like if you're purely judging people off week
Not
one.
necessarily, I guess, but you probably do have some of those power rankings come into the season. I know The Athletic does theirs weekly. It's something to talk about.
You think the Colts should be the favorite right now to win the AFC South, or would you still go with Houston? Or Jacksonville, I guess.
I think we have a small sample size, so after a couple of weeks, we'll see what it is. But right this second, I'd probably go Houston number 1 just based on the last couple of years. I'm still not sold on Jacksonville, so I'd probably put Indianapolis second. And I don't think there's much room for anybody else winning that division at this point in time.
Those offensive line issues in Houston look real this past Sunday, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but, man, I'm thinking to myself, how do you fix that quickly and shore it up for the entire season? Because when you go into the season with a bad offensive line, how many times does it get better? It's usually just it plays you all year. So you're asking C.J. Stroud, who I think is a very good young quarterback and the best quarterback in the division, to do things to overcome that, and it's very hard, especially when he's not the super athletic mobile type anyway. I mean, he's mobile enough to get you some first downs with his legs, but he's not going to, do some Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, even Caleb Williams type things to get free from pressure. So if I had to pick right now, I'd probably lean maybe towards Jacksonville. I do trust, their quarterback more than Daniel Jones to a degree. But even then, I'm like, Trevor Lawrence, he didn't look great this past Sunday. So I guess the fact that we're having this conversation, Kevin, is a good sign for what the Colts have done, being 1-0 for the first time in over a decade.
Certainly.
You do kind of worry about Jacksonville a little bit, though, with Liam Cohen. And, they've got some good skill position players after a down year last year. Like Etienne ran wild this past weekend. He had like 134 yards running on 16 carries, didn't he?
Yeah. And again, that is, you want to make your quarterback's life easier, run the ball. And so right now, Houston can't do anything. And they get one game, but boy, that was some bleak looking stuff, especially when you spend all offseason preparing for these moments. To come out and lay an egg like that against the Rams, tough.
Well, one thing that's nice when you see what's possible for this team, for the Indianapolis Colts, Kevin, I sit back and I go, why can't they go at least 4-2 within the division this year based on just one game? And that's a small sample size that we saw. But we know they can run the ball. We know they've got terrific skill position players of their own, and that defense really does look new and improved.
Yeah, that to me should be definite. I mean, you got a rookie quarterback that you should 2-0 over Tennessee, right? And then that means what? Split Jacksonville and split Houston? Yeah, I think that should be kind of the baseline, frankly, with where the Colts are at. By the way, I do want to give a shout out to LC's Cam McGrone at linebacker for the Colts. Lou Anarumo kind of confirmed this yesterday. We obviously saw it play out in week 1. And while Joe Bocci is the starter next to Zaire Franklin, number 48, Cam McGrone actually split those snaps right 50-50. I think each of them had 22 snaps with the starting unit on Sunday. So Cam McGrone, following in the likes of, going back a little bit of whatever, Ken Dilger, Anthony Johnson way back in the day, and certainly Joe Wrights, Jack Doyle, Juju Brents has started for this team. I know I'm probably forgetting some other Indy natives, but playing a very important role, Cam McGrone is out there. And, it's a great story of a guy that's kind of been on the practice squad and battled some injuries, and that linebacker rotation has been a question. And I don't know, James, I don't think like once Jalen Carlisle returns, it's just going to be, hey, see you later, Joe Bocci, or see you later, Cam McGrone. I could see those two guys still being in the mix there. So number 59, that's Cam McGrone. Sounds like he will continue to rotate and play a lead role next to Zaire Franklin.
Yeah, he's a good dude. I had a chance to talk to him and get to know him over the last couple of years in the locker room. And, yeah, he'll tell you, ACL in high school. I believe he tore his other ACL when he was in college at Michigan, dealing with elbow injuries last year. Even this year, wearing the big brace. And he was just talking about how after his first injury, after that, he was like, well, I kind of just built up this mental fortitude to be like, well, if I'm going to go out, I'm just going to go out hopefully on my own terms, but I'll never give up on myself in the process. And so, it's easier said than done when you're going through some of those mental hurdles and you're kind of questioning, will your body hold up? But to see him kind of break through on the other side and get some return on that investment is really cool. And he's going to certainly have an opportunity in this linebacker room, which outside of Zaire Franklin is just not very experienced. Now we'll see how they get tested against better offenses and as the season goes on. But yeah, shout out to the local product.
I think one thing that we need to start talking about, too, we were just basking in the glory of that Week 1 win, as we should. And I think it's a fair question. I started to read some articles and listen to people talking about it, especially in the Miami market last night. It's 1 week. We saw it. It's opening week. But Kevin Bowen or the Colts, were they that good? Are they that much improved? Or are the Dolphins just a mess right now? Or is it really somewhere in between. In the
I
middle
mean,
there.
it's probably always a little bit of both. But, when you look at the Colts and the reasons for hope coming into the season, different quarterback,
Steadier quarterback.
pass catchers, and defense. And if you look at week 1, I would say emphatically all three of those were tremendous. And so that, I think, is where you point. It's not like just one of the three was good or, even 2 of the 3. Now, again, are you going to get all 3 every week? No, probably not. And certainly Miami contribute to it. For Daniel Jones specifically, Miami's corner, I mean, we talked about it all August. Guys, have you guys seen Miami's depth at corner? Have you seen Miami's situation in the secondary? That obviously is not going to be at play. Denver secondary, for example, very potent.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is definitely a different challenge, but I think you are I think you're discrediting the Colts if you just simply say Miami's horrific. You don't have to sit here and say the Colts are going to go 14-3 or something like
They scored on
that.
7 straight possessions.
But to beat an NFL team 33-8 is just not. I mean, when's the last time the Colts have won a game by 25 points?
I don't remember right off the top
It
of my
certainly
head.
wasn't last year when we talked about how they only had 1 score victories, all 8 of them.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go back. Again, to me, it was the most impressive game, both sides of the ball, since the Buffalo game. Like, you can have a moment or two where it's like, man, did you see the defense? That was outstanding. Or, wow, did you see the offense? They played really, really well. But to get both of them going at the same time. So, yes, I get that week 1 can be fool's gold, and I fully understand that. And there's no bigger example of that than the New Orleans Saints from last year. But at the same time, the thoroughness of what the Colts did, both sides of the ball, I think deserves proper credit.
Yeah, it was just never ending on both sides of the ball. At no point in time did Miami really stop the Colts offense. They may have kicked a field goal here or there, but the drives were continuous and sustained. It wasn't like they were always gifted with short fields either. I mean, it was a nice performance.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how it translates to Denver to push ahead to look ahead a little bit, because going through some notes and stats yesterday, so this was fascinating to me. Denver had 6 sacks of Titans rookie Cam Ward in week 1. Obviously, that is a big number, and they had 6 different guys do it. But the crazy part is they didn't blitz him once. They were getting home with 3 and 4. So if you look at what the Colts dealt with last week with Miami blitzed them more than any team in the league. I believe it was 17 or 16 blitz, and you only got 1 sack out of that on Daniel Jones. And I went back through his log. His last 6 starts in New York, he was sacked multiple times in all those starts. One of those starts, he was sacked 7 times. Another time, 4 times. So, he's not used to having that amount of time, even with pressure coming. And I'm curious to see how Denver adjusts to that. Will they bring more pressure? Because historically they have. I mean, Vance Joseph, he brings pressure. I want to say they were top 10 in pressure last year as far as bringing blitzes. So what does that look like, and how will that offensive line be tested even more? When you got, for example, Nick Bonito, who we know is a stud. He's a star, 2nd-team All-Pro last year, just got paid like a star, and you're able to – he generated, I believe, 9 pressures by himself, again, with no blitzes. So what does that look like when you're up against a steeper opponent and, again, a Vance Joseph defense, which kind of like Lou Anarumo, they're going to throw some different things at you. One of the things that I noticed just watching some of the plays back on the All-22 film, and for those listening, All-22 was like this – basically like the YouTube version of how you watch the game. The bird's eye view is kind of how I would put it, where you see all 22 players on the screen. And pretty much what you got pre-snap defensively was what you got post-snap. And Daniel Jones just picked them apart. And I would imagine that the Broncos throw some different things at him, because for a veteran quarterback, you should be able to, pick a defense apart if it never changes after you snap the ball. So some things to keep in mind going forward.
Yeah, that's one thing that Vance Joseph did in that game, probably because Cam Ward was a rookie. They only rushed 4. But, man, they were giving him all kinds of crazy looks in the secondary with 6 guys, sometimes obviously 7 guys in coverage sometimes. Some of the formations, even at the beginning of the line of scrimmage, you're like, oh, I don't remember ever seeing something like that. I'm pretty sure the rookie hasn't either. So that's something to keep an eye on, too.
James, I think that aspect you just brought up, Daniel Jones operating with clean pockets, that is probably the Jones area I can point to as, if you really want to believe Daniel Jones can turn out to be something, it's that. It's now he is working behind a legit offensive line, whereas in New York, he largely wasn't. And certainly the skill group, I also think you can make a case is better. But even if you don't want to live in the skill group, he had Saquon Barkley with him in New York. That offensive line aspect, I think, could be the biggest difference because
I have a crazy stat for you along those lines.
When you see him throw the football, there is definitely an accuracy element to it, and arm strength isn't a concern, and all of those things. Again, he was a top 10 quarterback for some reasons. Is that different? For me, Daniel Jones operating out of that clean pocket, versus New York situation, that's like whatever. Walking into Jeff Rickard's pantry versus Kevin Bowen's pantry. You're going to live good if you're in the Rickard household.
2 teenage boys doesn't last very long.
You're going to be scrapping for crumbs in the old Bowen pantry right now.
I don't know. Might be scrapping for crumbs over at Jeff's house later on because he's got the entire village of Indianapolis in his house.
You would think, Mark, that I have like the Jim Irsay estate.
It sounds like it.
Something every day.
Living large, baby.
Having 17 people, planning for 17 people, that I can't even fathom at my house.
But to your point, Kevin,
somebody wants to do a show remote from our house, your house. By the way, I'm like, we could do it.
We'd have people sleeping in the chimney at the Bowen household if we tried to house that many people.
One of the things that I do want to hit that you pointed out, Kevin, and I looked this up yesterday because again I went down a rabbit hole just to figure out and I'll have a story come out later today about this actually, like how real is this? How much should we believe? And this was crazy to me. So during Daniel Jones' tenure in New York with the Giants, he had 16 games in which he at least threw 10 passes where he was sacked 5 times or more. He had 18 games where he was sacked 1 time or less. So it lets you know, to get sacked 5 times in an NFL game is a lot. That doesn't happen. Even on bad days for NFL offenses, you rarely get sacked 5 times. And for that to happen almost at a 1-to-1 ratio, as you getting sacked 1 or less, lets you know what he was dealing with and again, some of that might have been him holding the ball and there's other circumstances there, but not all of it. My goodness, can you get the guy an opportunity to, play clean football? And I think a lot of that has to do with what you have up front. And I was thoroughly impressed, again, with Tanner Bortolini starting at center. I thought Matt Gonzalez looked good. Shout out to Braden Smith. We know what he dealt with at 10 last year. He looked like he picked up right where he left off because the crazy part about what Braden Smith went through, as we all pointed out during that time, he left when he was playing good football. And now I'm glad he's in a better mental state, but he picked up right where he left off.
Well, and let's go back to Monday's show. There are a couple different times within, I think, each hour where I found myself, kind of jerking the wheel a little bit and being like, hey, let's credit the offensive line. I get it's not flashy, and I don't want this to sound like I'm discrediting Daniel Jones, but it would be really hard for any quarterback to have screwed up with that pocket on Sunday. It was
pristine,
so solid and clean and consistent. And that is the Jones aspect to where, again, you're banking on others around him, which was so much of this decision. So much of this decision was we feel like we can support him with the other 10 and Shane Steichen as play caller. And again, that aspect, betting on a first-round All-Pro, future Hall of Famer Nelson, betting on Braden Smith, betting on Bernard Ryman, betting on Tanner Bortolini was a 4th-round pick for a center. That's very high for a center. 3rd-round pick in Matt Gonzalez. There's a little bit more of okay, I can see belief in that more than maybe saying, oh, wow, Daniel Jones he's going to Houdini it, and all of a sudden he's going to turn into the next Josh Allen. That is, obviously unfair. So, again, that's the aspect of, can that be real? And certainly the test this week, as James just laid out all those numbers, is much, much different because Tennessee had great field position all day, and I think they ended the day averaging 2.5 yards per play, which is just awful. So how's the defensive test going to impact the Colts coming up this week?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this offense does do against them. And the other thing, going back to Daniel Jones when he was in New York, he had a receiver or two, and he certainly had Saquon Barkley, but the offensive line wasn't all that great for Barkley sometimes either. But the fact that you've got such a solid core of receivers, and now Tyler Warren on top of all that, and JT in the backfield, this is clearly the best situation that Daniel Jones has ever had, James.
He's probably feeling that way, and we will certainly see again if it is validated. Because there's been times in his career where he's looked good. He's looked great. And then it's kind of gone downhill after that. So keep in mind, there's a couple other things I could throw out there throughout the show. But just going back through his history, there have been moments where he's had really good games and it hasn't worked out, for reasons. It might be his play, the offensive line, whatever. So I would just say, again, that's the question we're all asking ourselves. How much should we believe? But again, having that conversation at all is a good thing for the Colts.
Well, they'll get a chance to show what they've got against one of the best defenses in the NFL coming up on Sunday, Lucas Oil Stadium. We'll talk more about that in a moment with Stephen Holder. He covers the team at ESPN.com, and he will stop by and give us his thoughts on the week to come for the Indianapolis Colts right here on the home of the Indianapolis Colts and radio, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Man, it rolls quickly. It feels like we just got done whooping up on the Dolphins on Sunday afternoon, and we're getting ready for the Broncos coming up in just a couple of days' time already. It goes.
See, I can't say we. I was not out there doing the do, but shout out to the Colts for getting it done because that was quite the end-to-end performance.
There were a lot of people in that stadium that were feeling pretty good about that victory. We check in now with a man who covers the Colts and has for a while now. He's at ESPN. One of our good friends, Stephen Holder, on the Payless Liquors hotline.
You know, Stephen
today.
was there with, Jim Harbaugh and those guys. He's been here for a long time.
What was that opening? I know it's the first time that the Colts have won since 2013 on an opening day. But what you've been around. The point is you've seen a few ups and downs in that stadium and with this team. What was the vibe you got walking out of that stadium the other day?
I mean, it's pretty good. Look, I've been, as James said, I have been here a long time. Do you know that before Sunday, I had only seen the Colts win once on opening day, despite being here for, 12 years or something. So that was different. I wasn't sure what to do with it. But I think there is something about going 1-0, and it's only symbolic, okay? It doesn't mean anything. You could lose the next 16. But there is something, I think, emotionally and symbolically important about being 1-0 for your fans, for your own selves as a football team. I think this fan base, if you're asking me about vibes, among others, the fans and so forth, but this fan base, I think, needed something to believe in, because I haven't felt a lot of belief around town lately. I will tell you that. I mean, we all get asked questions about this team, and the vibe from those questions, to continue with that word, it has not been great. And there's not been a lot of optimism. So I think people were surprised, but also welcoming of that surprise, because it was not what they expected.
Stephen, I saw a video yesterday of Quentin Nelson. I don't know if he's got a chance to watch this, but they had him mic'd up, right? And that has to be the most excited we've heard him in quite some time, at least, putting something like that out into the public. But when you walk into that locker room after the game and you kind of see that energy still there, how do you think that they can build on that, or perhaps use that to go forward? Because, again, it's been a long time since they were ever 1-0. A lot of these guys, I want to say all of them probably, wearing a Colts uniform, hadn't experienced being 1-0 as a Colt.
No, they haven't. And you're exactly right. And I do think that's kind of what I'm getting at when you talk about that energy. I mean, think about this. You spent all off season talking and practicing and working and all of the things that go into being a football team. You do all of that, and you spend weeks and months and so forth doing it. And then you come into week one and you get your heads beat in. That sucks. Okay? That really sucks. And it doesn't mean you can't be good. The Colts have had good seasons despite winning or losing in week one, which they do so routinely. But just think about how different a vibe it is when you actually get a return on your investment for all the work that you put in all off season in the first game of the season. So you'd much rather be the Colts today than, the Dolphins, okay, who now are doubting everything about themselves. So it does matter, at least somewhat, I think.
Again, Stephen Holder, you can find his work, ESPN. He joins us every Wednesday. We always appreciate his time. Stephen, we were talking about this a little bit earlier about, betting on Daniel Jones to be a constant or consistent for you. Yeah, the back of the baseball card would tell you otherwise. But, you watch that offensive line operate on Sunday, and if I said, would you bet on that to be more of a constant, you would probably have more belief in that unit stringing consistency together than you would maybe Jones himself. How much of that do you think could be possible? Yeah, Jones might have a little bit more erratic nature to him moving forward, but if that offensive line looks different than it looked in New York for him, then all of a sudden, maybe you do have a quarterback that finds more consistency.
What you saw on Sunday was the absolute, positively greatest possible scenario for Daniel Jones. Okay? Absolute flawless protection. You saw receivers who were getting wide open. I don't know what the Miami Dolphins were doing. I'm not downing Daniel Jones. I'm just telling you, he took what he was given, and he was given a lot. Okay.
Plus, I don't think
Because
you had
don't
a
know what the hell
drop. Did you have a drop on Sunday? I don't think anybody dropped the ball.
I don't know that they did.
Yeah.
So protection, wide receivers, incredible job. Dolphins, go home. We don't want to see you anymore. Shane Steichen, fabulous job. Like when you give Shane Steichen an edge, all right, when he's got the upper hand on a defense, it's going to be a long day. And that's what that was. So Daniel Jones, his job is to come in and be the conductor. He is not one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. We don't go take what happened on Sunday and try to extrapolate it into him being something else. But he is a guy who can take that optimum situation and do a lot with it. And that is what you saw. Now, here's the question. I am not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I think there's questions though, right? We got to see what's it look like against a competent defense, because that was not one. I'm telling you, I have not seen a defense play that poorly in a long time. Mike McDaniel, he ain't going to make it. I'm just telling you now, he is not going to make it if that's what the Miami Dolphins look like. So Denver is a great test, and it will tell us a lot. I still like the Colts, and I like their chances in this game, but this is going to tell us a lot. Pat Surtain, that safety on the back end, Hufanga, great opening game with Denver. They've got Bonito up there. I mean, they're going to make it tough on you, and then just Vance Joseph as a coordinator. So this is going to be a much more difficult matchup, and there may be more pressure. But to finish the thought about the offensive line, Daniel Jones was pressured. I think we had him pressured 6 times at ESPN, and his career average in New York was almost 13 dropbacks per game. So less than half the amount of pressure he felt on a weekly basis in New York is what he got on Sunday.
Stephen Holder, ESPN, joining us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Can we talk about special teams a little bit too? I know, one game, small sample size. We know what Rigoberto Sanchez is capable of doing. But, man, Spencer Schrader delivered. There's just no other way to put it. What do we think about this special teams unit?
No, I think they did a great job. I mean, because there were some times in the preseason where I was kind of like, just not even the kicking situation per se, but just special teams overall. There were some shaky moments in the preseason, and I don't want to overreact to preseason special teams because, you've got like future Amazon drivers out there in some cases, right? But I'm just telling you, there were questions to be asked. I thought they were really solid all the way around on special teams, and Spencer Schrader has a real opportunity here to solidify himself, with a team that, apparently is going to be able to move the football. So that gives you opportunities as the kicker. So kudos to him. He bounced around last year, 3 different teams I think he kicked for. And here is an opportunity, a golden opportunity to be the guy. And it's up to him to make good on it, but that's a great start for him on Sunday.
So, Stephen, actually, when I looked at the offense and, we talked a lot about Tyler Warren. We talked a lot about even Michael Pittman Jr. and what he was able to do. But the variety in which Daniel Jones was able to distribute the ball, do you think that is what Shane envisioned to a degree? Like, okay, if I trust myself enough to scheme up the offense, to scheme up guys being open. Because if you look at, Daniel Jones and his air yards per attempt, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but he didn't throw the ball down the field a ton. He wasn't throwing it down the field every single play. But what did you think of perhaps maybe what Shane gained or maybe what trust he gained in Daniel when he sees, okay, if I do scheme up a few shots, I have someone who can possibly get the ball there when he needs to get there?
Yeah, he's a point guard. He really is. And I think that's fine. That's not, I think there might be some who hear that and think you're being disparaging. I don't think it is. I think Daniel Jones is fine with that analogy. Don't make it more complicated than it has to be. And I think that's the way they looked at it. Look, he's a guy who he's going to make good decisions under optimum circumstances. They gave him optimum circumstances. Like when he's under pressure, he starts to crumble, at least historically, okay? Because he did not trust his protection in New York. He did not have that issue on Sunday. So he's able to be back there and comfortably make good decisions. And the first read, look, we saw Xavier Howard basically just murder Tua Tagovailoa basically the other day when I asked him a very
you
harmless
got him going
question.
viral here, Stephen. He might have looked at you like, man, you got me all on TMZ.
I mean, I had no intent with the question. he just took it and ran and said that Tua, if he couldn't get to his first read, that it was panic mode. And honestly, we saw some of that from Daniel Jones in New York. Now, here's the thing. They protected him, and Shane Steichen did such a good job of giving him great first options. Daniel Jones is going to hit those, okay? If you give him that, he's hitting it. He's hitting it all day. He can do that, and he is actually more than happy to do that. He wants to throw to the first read. He doesn't want to go through 2 and 3 progressions. Not that he can't. It's just that that's not his game. So he got the ball out, and kudos to, as you mentioned, Tyler Warren and Michael Pittman and others for making something happen after the catch. That is really the way this offense is designed. And what I was told earlier this offseason is that there was going to be an emphasis, or I should say less emphasis, on pushing the ball down the field, regardless of who the quarterback was. The emphasis was intended to be less on pushing the ball down the field, and let's get some run after the catch going. I think they have guys who can do it, and I think it's the right way to go. And let's see if they can continue this because it is much harder to hit those shot plays. It just is. It's much more optimum to allow guys to make plays after the catch.
Stephen, last one for me. Stephen Holder with us here from ESPN. Last year, we saw this matchup. Honestly, I thought it was one of the Colts' better stretches of football through the first, really, honestly, until Taylor dropped the ball, frankly, through about 2.5, 3 quarters, considering everything that was on the line in that game. The Colts are about to be up 2 scores on the road, hostile environment, et cetera, and then it unravels there like no other. What were your kind of general thoughts as you look back on last year's matchup and now looking ahead to Sunday?
Yeah, I thought that was that was a turning point in the season. It really was. I think about how you felt about the Colts going into that game versus the rest of the season. I mean, you talk about a 180. There was optimism. There was like, hey, think about how different things were for Anthony Richardson from that day forward, right? I mean, so much changed that day, and I think what that says to us is that this is a good Broncos team that they have to measure themselves against a little bit. I'm not saying this is the ultimate measurement. They're going to have tougher games down the stretch, or the rest of the season. But this is a team that if you make mistakes, they're going to beat you. And that was proven last year. So the Colts have to be much better, or they have to play as well, at least, on Sunday, I think, to make this a team that goes 2-0. So that game, I'm telling you, that I will always remember that as a turning point in that season because, we opened this segment talking about vibes. Well, the vibes going into that game, they were a hell of a lot different than the vibes coming out of it, and the rest of the season, completely different.
Stephen Holder, ESPN, always good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us, as always, on a Wednesday. Have a great week, and we'll see you in the press box on Sunday.
All right, guys. See you soon.
There he is, Stephen Holder, with his thoughts on the Payless Liquors hotline right there. This is a test. For this new offense, man, this is a test.
Do you guys believe in and James, you asked Stephen this sort of question, do you believe in we have the player that used to be on your roster, so we have intel storyline? And I bring that up in regards to Xavier Howard, for those not totally following here. Xavier Howard, the Colts signed a month ago, was on the Dolphins for years. Wasn't on the Dolphins last year, was on the Dolphins for years. And he was very blunt yesterday or Monday in describing what makes Tua start to unravel.
Panic mode.
Yeah, and the Colts obviously made Tua look panicky. So do you guys believe in the ex-player comes to our team and he's got great intel on you?
I think there's intel to be had in a situation when you go up against a guy in practice all the time and you start to maybe see his particular tells, or you get to know how he reacts day after day after day in terms of real scheme stuff. I don't know that there's a huge advantage there because things change week to week and adjustments get made. But I do think other players get to know past players and know their tendencies just by being around them all the time, don't you, James?
Yeah, I would agree to an extent, but overall, no. Because I think even if you know what they're going to do, you got to execute it. And the best teams execute. So you can know what's coming, but how many times we see like the Legion of Boom defense years ago, we all knew what they were going to run, and they still dominated you because they were just better. So I don't buy too much into it. I even saw, to some degree, some of that on the Dolphins side with Juju Brents, and they were asking him like, oh, did you give your teammates any tips on how to, guard these guys and what they might do defensively? And it's like, sure, feel free to offer that up, but I don't think that's going to make much of a difference.
Well, I bring that up for this week because, and he is the nicest human, one of the nicest humans I've ever come across in the NFL. But Sam Ehlinger is on the Broncos. And if there's somebody that knows Shane Steichen's offense, I would think a quarterback. Like, if you do believe in this theory.
But at least knows how he thinks, too.
If you do believe in the theory of X player can provide intel, I would say X quarterback.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Same offense. It's not like Lou Anarumo's defense. Sam Ehlinger obviously can't really help on that side of the ball. But again, just a little, it might be a nothing burger, but when you have a spread that's 1 or 2 points and you expect this to be a close game, and obviously these teams did meet late last season, and for what it's worth, Bo Nix did face Lou Anarumo last year, late in the season. Denver-Cincinnati was actually one of Nix's better games of his
crazy game.
Of his wild game. That was the missed field goals and overtime game, if you remember.
Yeah.
And then
I think everything was on the line at that point, too, wasn't it?
And was it Nix to Mims, right, for the game winner?
I believe so.
Or for the game overtime, forcing overtime. So just a wild, wild game. So a couple little branches, if you will, from this Week 2 matchup.
It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about for the next couple of days, and even more fun to watch on Sunday afternoon. Having said all of that, Mark Dykton, let's check it down. We'll get back to the Colts and the NFL in a moment here, but the Indiana Fever concluded their 2025 regular season last night over at the Fieldhouse. 24-20 their record on the year. They will be the 6th seed, I believe, going into the postseason. There's still a chance they can get to the number 7 seed?
Yes. So we will find out officially tomorrow night after all the games are wrapped up to figure out where they actually land, if they can play the Aces or the Dream. And as I keep saying, I'll prefer the Dream because the Aces have the potential MVP in Asia Wilson.
Another potential MVP did not play in that game for Minnesota last night. Nafisa Caller was out, and the Fever took advantage. They got out to a 10-0 start and never trailed in a game to win 83-72 over the Lynx to improve, as I said, to 24-20. Kelsey Mitchell coming through again with 18 points. Aaliyah Boston solid, 12 points, 8 boards. Natasha Howard, 10 points, 7 rebounds. Odyssey Sims had 15 points. And again, we talked about it a little bit yesterday with Pat Boylan. The Fever just haven't – all the players that have gone down, 5 out with season-ending injuries this year, but the folks they brought in to replace those players, they've hit on almost every one of them, James.
Yeah, and it just shows the professionalism on both sides, both from the team and the player. Shout out to Odyssey Sims, former number 2 pick in the draft, and she plays with so much emotion and passion. It kind of reminds you how much it means to these players even after all these years. I mean, she's been on different teams. She's been in and out of the league or in and out of different rosters. And for her to come and care as much as she has is really cool. And also shout out to Ariel Powers as well. I got to see her at Michigan State when I was in college. She was great. I saw her for maybe 1/4 or 1/2 of a college basketball game. And I remember looking around like, yeah, she's going to the WNBA. So it's kind of cool to see her all these years later in my neck of the woods.
All right, let's talk about the Colts again. They had the day off yesterday. They get ready for the Denver Broncos for a late kickoff, 4:05, coming up on Sunday afternoon over at Lucas Oil Stadium. What's the injury situation heading into Sunday? Still got a couple of guys either questionable or out already, right?
Yeah, Mooney Ward in concussion protocol, so we'll see where his status is today. Basically, past history would indicate if you don't practice on a Wednesday, it's very, very difficult for you to make it through those steps by Sunday. Still nothing yet on Jalen Jones. They did sign a corner to the practice squad, so we'll see. I said this yesterday, and I guess I am taking a shot, at Bo Nix and the Denver Whiteouts. If there are games on the schedule, you could maybe withstand a lack of cornerback depth. I do think this is one of them. Now, Cortland Sutton's a very good player, and whatever, Xavier Howard might be a combo. Maybe Kenny Moore plays more outside this week. Maybe Chris Lamont or Mekhi Blackman play more inside. Just little wrinkles that potentially the Colts are going to have to explore. But outside of that, we'll see. I mean, so far, the health looked pretty good. Again, Jonathan Taylor, Shane Steichen said, came out of the game okay on Sunday.
All right, let's talk about some Major League Baseball, Mark Dykton. The Cubs getting a win over the Atlanta Braves, 6-1 last night. They are firmly in control of their wild card destiny. So I guess the challenge for them is just keep playing good baseball and stay sharp until the postseason comes, right?
Keep on keeping on.
I like that. You should make a bumper sticker out of that.
I'm sure someone did in the 80s.
That's Jeff Rickard's second favorite player right there. Pete Armstrong right there.
Get you out to Wrigley.
If I can't cheer for the Colts, I guess I'll root for Tom Brady.
Yeah,
and the
that
Patriots.
Doesn't mean I want the Cubs to win.
Mark, could you imagine saying like LeBron James is one of your favorite players during those Bulls years when they were going at it in the playoffs?
Pacers fans
LeBron
this year.
James.
I will
You know,
not
if the
apologize.
Pacers can't get it done, I really want the Bucks to get it done.
I will
Shout
not
out to
apologize
Giannis.
for enjoying the play of the
IU
player
basketball
that
fans.
plays it the
If
right
IU
way.
can't win it all this year, I really hope Purdue cuts down the nets.
I'm going to get a jersey that's half Caleb Williams, half Jordan Love.
You're that guy. Half jersey.
I'd walk into
Darren
oncoming
DeVries?
traffic if I did
Was
that.
Darren DeVries courtside? Did Scott Agnes have that last night? Did I see him? By all accounts, his
May have
daughter
been.
is an excellent
Ooh.
young basketball player, I believe, at one of the local Bloomington high schools.
All right. My favorite team, the Reds, did get a win last night in San Diego 4-2. It's that, and look, Kevin, I know that we've dismissed them. They are 3 games out of the wild card now. San Diego is one of the teams that they are chasing. This is a big series for them
You said
right
they were
now.
dead the other day. Now they're the Undertaker and they're rising up.
Let's go.
What are we doing here?
Let's go.
Are
Mathematically,
they dead or not?
They are 3
I'm about to say,
games
you
out of the last
flip-flopping like
wild
me in
card
my predictions
spot.
last week. Pick a side.
3 games out of the wild card spot right now.
So call it. Are they getting in?
They're dead.
They're not. That was
They
too long of a
stink.
delay. You
No,
ain't got
stop
no real
it.
belief.
That was a long pause
You ain't
and a
got no
big
real
sigh.
belief,
They
man.
also improved to a game over 500 with that win, 73 and
Yippee.
72 on the night. The St. Louis Cardinals losing to Seattle 5-3 was the final score in that one. The White Sox come up on the wrong end of the score. The Tampa Bay Rays 5-4 was the final there. Iowa Cubs got a shutout win in Indianapolis here at Victory Field last night. 7-0 was the final score, but 7-0 in 11 innings. That escalated quickly, James.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, talk about being in a slugfest and then things kind of break open. But they say in baseball, one of the cliches I always heard was, hitting is contagious.
Iowa Cubs in town again today. An afternoon start at 1:35 over at Victory Field against the Indianapolis Indians. And Jalen Carter spitting on a player before he even played it down on Monday Night Football, or I guess it was Thursday Night Football a week and a half ago. NFL today said, nope, that serves as a 1-game suspension because he didn't play at all in that game. They gave him a $50,000 fine in that game of being suspended for spitting on a player.
Yeah, the
on
amount
Dak Prescott.
Yeah, the amount of, first of all, the Philly fans saying that Dak spit first. Who raised you? He didn't spit on anybody. So all of you trying to act like it's equal offense, no, it's not. And then secondly, Kevin, the amount of water carrying I saw from some of these reporters around the league, and I'm like, man, is this what it take to become an insider? Because some of the explanations that we were seeing in the editorializing of the situation, I'm not with none of that.
Yeah, Schefter makes you want to puke.
I mean, it's Tom Pelissero, a lot of those guys who, again, I love the information they provide most of the time, but I'm looking why are we framing this the NFL retroactively suspended him because he didn't take a snap, and they're really setting a standard because now, technically, it is a suspension, so that's the standard. Nah. We all saw him get dressed and go out there for a game and get prepared to play a game because he was too dumb to not spit on somebody. He got ejected from the game before it started. That is the premise of everything. So I don't buy into the whole he already got suspended thing. I think they're looking at that matchup and how good of a player he is, and they're like, you know what? It's probably better if we have Jalen Carter out there, which I understand from a monetary standpoint, but from a moral standing, the NFL, I'm questioning some things.
Yeah, I thought they'd go one more game. So I guess 2 games if you want to look at it like
Yeah.
that. I thought they'd go multi. I thought there was an opportunity to kind of reset the old precedent.
Because here's my question. If he had played one single snap, would that be different then? Would that have counted as a game played and then you spend it for another game? That's my whole thing. You're basically rewarding him for
How deep into the
spitting
game do you
early
go?
instead of
Right.
doing it a few minutes later.
Right.
It's kind of like
second quarter, third quarter. Yeah.
That's it's a gray
Now,
area.
Can you imagine the Eagles beat the Chiefs this week? When do you start saying the wild card Chiefs?
I remember several years ago
0-2?
they started off really tough at the beginning of the season.
Have they ever
rallied
started
and had
0-2?
Maybe
they
not in the
were
Mahomes
1-3
era.
several
Were they?
years ago, and then they came back and I think made a run. So,
But I will
hard to say.
the numbers when you start 0-2 in the NFL are bleak. It's honestly very surprising to me because you got 15 games left. But, man, if you start 0-2, your chances of making the playoffs drop tremendously. I just throw on this, I want to say last year or something like that. So, I have to go back and see the updated numbers, but it is a big, big thing. You do not want to be 0-2 in the NFL.
And on the other side of that coin, take a look at the Colts. If they were able to find a way to beat the Denver Broncos on Sunday, which they very well could, not only would they be 2-0, but they'd have a 2-0 AFC record, and they would have head-to-head over two teams that they could potentially be vying for a playoff spot with at the end of the year.
Big game.
So, yeah, it's important even though
I've been
early.
saying since May, the two biggest games not named Houston on the schedule right here out of the gate. I mean, these are massive, massive games, and the Colts thoroughly took care of business week one, and a great, great opportunity here coming up on Sunday.
Didn't JMV label Game 1 a must-win?
Has he done that annually?
I think he did that. I'm not sure.
That
I love
sounds so
that,
JMV.
He's the best. Anything else you want to throw in before we head off to
Shout out to T.Y. Hilton, going in the Florida International Football Hall of Fame, first player in that program's history, a little over 2 decades old, one of the younger college football programs out there. But as I said in the 7 o'clock hour, one of the most beloved Colts, I think, inside and outside of that locker room, universally beloved by his teammates and I think fans as well. So great to see T.Y. Hilton heading into the Ring of Honor down there in Miami.
All right, and coming up in a moment, we'll talk some NBA, not only Pacers as they get ready for another season without Tyrese Halliburton this time, but also a story you've been following very closely just got a little more interesting in the last 24 hours, James Boyd. We'll talk about that next. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Good morning. Thanks for being here. We'll talk more Colts, some NBA and Pacers coming up in a few minutes. But right now, we got college football on our minds. We've got Purdue taking on USC coming up this weekend, and that'll be up in West Lafayette. I'm looking forward to that. And joining us now to tell us a little bit more about that football game, Tom Deanhart on the Payless Liquors hotline, as we have him every week throughout the season. Tom, thanks for being here again. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Sort of exciting. I know USC is officially a Big Ten school, but it still doesn't feel like it. So I guess when I see these logo schools come to town, it's always kind of fun and intriguing. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they have, and of course, what Purdue has too.
Tom, you pointed this out earlier in the week, and I, from a talent standpoint, I think it'd be ludicrous to act like Purdue is whatever, even the middle of the pack of the Big Ten right now. But, okay, what does Barry Odom change? The fact that through 2 weeks, I think the least penalized team in the Big Ten and only one turnover, I don't know, maybe you're crawling before you're walking, but to me, that is a definite step in the right direction compared to where you were at.
Yeah, it sort of gets back to that old notion, don't beat yourself, right? And they certainly have not done that the first 2 weeks. You're correct, 5 penalties, fewest in the Big Ten, second fewest in the nation. Last year they averaged, I think, 6 penalties a game. And then the turnovers, you're right, just one so far this season. That occurred last week, the Ryan Brown interception. So, yeah, they played smart football, and Barry Odom always preaches hard, smart, and tough. So that's one of his 3 holy grail or holy trinity football tenets that they've achieved so far. So we'll see. Like I said, nobody throws a parade for beating Ball State, in Southern Illinois. Purdue's about a 20-point underdog this weekend, so it will be interesting to see what type of fight they can put up against a USC program, guys, that under Lincoln Riley, I think, has a lot to prove this year.
Tom, when you look at the offensive workload, I already wrote about this the other day, for Devin Mockabee, what do you think is the balance between trusting him? You gave him 32 carries last week, but also trying to make sure you keep him fresh for what you hope would be the end of the game.
Yeah, too much. I mean, I think, the offensive coordinator, Josh Henson, and Barry Odom mentioned that this week. That was I guess an anomaly, if you will. 32 carries, a career high. He's not built for that, guys. If you stood next to Devin Mockabee, you wouldn't even know he's a Big Ten running back. He's 200 pounds, but just not an overly big guy and muscular guy. You got to be careful and prudent with your usage, and they need to get some other backs involved, I think. It's kind of interesting. The first week they won by throwing the ball. Last week it was by running the ball. So they're going to take what defense is given, but they got to be really prudent, like I said, with how they use number 45, because there's no doubt they got to keep him healthy this year.
Tom Deanhart joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. He covers Purdue football for on3.com, and you can find great stuff there all the time on Purdue, including a conversation you had with Pete Arbogast, the longtime voice of Trojan football this week. What'd you learn about USC in your conversations with him?
Iconic Pete Arbogast. That was a lot of fun. And, they're kind of trying to figure out who they are, too. They opened up with 2 sort of rummies. Missouri State was playing their first ever FBS game, and then Georgia Southern. They ran roughshod over both those teams. So they're kind of looking in the mirror wondering, who are we? Are we really that good? And they think Pete's out there much better on defense. That's been the real bugaboo out there in Los Angeles. The Trojan defense has been very subpar of late. He thinks they're bigger and better and stronger. Offensively, great skill. Terrific quarterback, maybe an NFL quarterback in Jaden Maeva, and 2 great receivers. And the one area, though, Pete said there's concern is the offensive line. How good is that O-line? And you guys know as football fans and people listening, too, that football is always one of the trenches from Pee Wee football in the NFL. So if USC's not good up front, especially on offense, I think USC could struggle again this year.
Tom, I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's a little PTSD on my brain, but, last year there was all this hype kind of leading into the Notre Dame game. I believe it might have even been a bye week prior to that. And then we obviously saw how that game and the rest of the season unfolded. I get the opponents are the opponents, but watching week 1 and week 2, has that made you rethink at all your expectations for Purdue the rest of the season, or is the measuring stick just totally different what you're going to face now moving forward?
Yeah, you're right. There was a bye week after the Indiana State win, and boy, the anticipation for that game last year, and then the utter abomination. I think it was 42-0 at halftime, 66-7 final. But are my expectations changed because Purdue's 2-0 this year? I guess no. Like I said, I'm going to still reserve judgment. Las Vegas thought the over-under win total for this team was 3.5. And I think that still sounds about right. 3-9, 4-8ish, I think. They probably won't be favored again the rest of the year. Maybe if you can say they could be favored at home against Rutgers. Maybe they're favored at Northwestern. Those two games you think Purdue has a good chance to win. So there's 4 wins. So maybe 4-8. Maybe they upset somebody and get to 5-7. But at this point, just win 1 or 2 more games, and just look organized, look well coached, play good against your peers, and just don't get embarrassed against the elite teams.
We have Tom Deanhart joining us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. He covers the Purdue Boilermakers for On 3. And I'm looking at the USC quarterback numbers, Jaden Maiava. Hope I said that correctly. And everything that I'm seeing is absurd through 2 games. Now, I get it. They haven't played much of anybody. But how do the Boilermakers slow him down? And ultimately, what are some keys you think to pulling out the upset victory, at least according to Vegas?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Barry Odom actually coached Jaden Maiava at UNLV. They were there together in 2023. So he has intimate knowledge of Jaden. I'm sure he still would love to have Jaden as his quarterback. But how do you stop him? That's now Barry Odom's conundrum, right? And Pete Arbogast talked a little bit about that. He says Purdue's got to pressure him somehow, some way. And the Purdue DC, Mike Shear, he likes to be a little exotic with his blitzes, and I think he's going to have to be creative on Saturday. He likes to bring cornerbacks, guys from different angles. So they're going to have to disrupt Jaden, not let him get comfortable. So that's going to be the key, the pressure up front. I'm not sure if the Purdue D-line can get a consistent rush without a blitz. So I'm really intrigued to see how they defend Jaden, trying to make him uncomfortable, guys. The first 2 games, I'm sure Purdue didn't show all it's got. So they got some wrinkles that we haven't seen yet that I'm really eager to see.
Tom, last thing. Are we going to see Drew Brees up at Ross-Ade this weekend?
Yes, number 15, Drew Brees, the icon, the great one, will be back. I'm told he's going to get it right before the game. So there's a big reunion this weekend, the 25th anniversary. I cannot believe it, guys. 25 years ago, Purdue went to the Rose Bowl. Seems like yesterday, but Drew will be back, of course, along with just a raft of other Boilermakers. Vinny Sutherland, Tim Stratton's going to be here. So, Stu Schweiger, Travis Dorsch. So it's going to be neat to see those guys get honored. And, yes, Drew Brees will be back, and I'm sure the ovation will be loudest for him, right?
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch him. That's always good. So thanks so much for stopping by, Tom, as always. We appreciate that. We appreciate your insights, and we'll talk to you next week.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. Be good.
Tom Deanhart, On 3, joining us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. And
Vinny Sutherland was a hell of a player. Gosh, there's some blasts from the past when Tom was rattling off those names.
25-year anniversary of that team.
IU's got Indiana State coming up Friday night, so Kurt Mallory and company heading down to Bloomington. I do think an underrated aspect of Indiana so far, as the schedule is about to get tougher with the Fighting Boyds next Saturday and then at Iowa and at Oregon. Their run game. They've had a couple different running backs that they have used here. The BB kid and the Hemby kid, both of them have done a nice job here. So they're able to establish a little bit more balance. Their best half of the season by far was that second half against Kennesaw State after largely, I think, kind of played with their food the first couple halves of the year. We'll see how their final tune-up goes before Bleep starts to get real in Bloomington. Bleep's going to get real for Purdue coming up 3:30 on Saturday, and it's about to get real in Bloomington.
Speaking of running backs, did you see Ohio State has a running back called Bo Jackson? His name is Bo Jackson.
Really?
Yes, and he's not built like Bo Jackson, but he had a big game last week, and I just thought that was hilarious. It's always funny to me when I see players years after somebody dominated a sport, and it's like, oh my gosh, his name is Kobe Bryant. Wow, his name is Bo Jackson. It's like, actually, it was a kid from one of the schools that I used to cover, Morton. Shout out to the Morton Governors in Hammond, Indiana. They had a kid on their team that won Division I, and his name was LeBron Hill. I'm like, your parent named you after LeBron James, and you actually were a great athlete. So respect to you.
Yeah. Like
I saw
LeBron,
a video.
Tiger, Peyton, and all that. Like I'm fine with, but going Bo Jackson, I mean, that's a little unfair for the kid, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But you wait, what? You said LeBron is fair? I mean, that's not fair either.
Well, look,
I wouldn't want to be named after any star like that.
But when your last name's different, it doesn't ring as much as Bo freaking Jackson.
That's fair. Yeah.
I went down to like our Instagram.
I thought it was his kid at first, but
is
he's
his
not.
middle name Vincent?
I mean, yeah. There it is. LeBron Hill from Hammond, Indiana. He's playing at Vanderbilt right now. And I'm like, your name's LeBron. Like, that's a lot of pressure.
I went down an Instagram rabbit hole yesterday, and there's this video that popped up.
Oh
and made
boy,
me
watch
laugh. It was It was college, like the names of some college players that are going around these days because these people with all these fascinating names, like General Booty is an actual kid's name that's out there playing college football. And they said because all these parents named these kids these weird names, now they're growing up to be adults. So it was cute when they were toddlers, but now they're adults, and now they got these crazy names, and they're all in the college football sphere right now.
I mean, I got into a 3-minute rabbit hole on Storm Duck, the Miami DB who got hurt on Sunday. All of a sudden, when he was on the field injured, I'm like looking up his bio and everything, and I'm like, can you imagine that name? Storm Duck sounds great on the playground, but I don't know if it's going to work in the corporate world.
I know. Last one from me, the funniest nickname so far that I've come across, at least recently, Washington Commanders running back, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. His nickname is Bill. And we're like, why is your nickname Bill when your name is Ja'Cory? And he said that when he was young, he got his haircut super low, and they called him Little Bill from the show Little Bill. And he said it just stuck. And as he got older, they dropped the little part and just called him Bill. So that is literally his nickname. And I want to say on the roster, they have him listed as Bill Krosky-Merritt. Hilarious.
Go Bill. That's what's happening in the world of nicknames this morning here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Coming up in just a moment. James, I got to get back to this NBA story that continues to grow just more and more fascinating by the moment. We'll also hear a little bit from Rick Carlisle in the 9 o'clock hour as we talk some Pacers as the NBA season is getting closer and closer to us as well. It's all coming up on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. I think the universe is telling me something this morning, Mark. This is a song that was really popular when my wife and I were going out. We'd play it in the car all the time. And I heard it this morning in the hallway over on the B, and now you're playing it today. And I feel like maybe the universe is telling me something. I don't know what it is exactly, but
the song's about crystal
up,
meth, so maybe it's telling you about that. I don't know.
I know. That's the crazy thing about it. It's a great song, but it's not. You listen to it, and you're like, oh, wait a minute.
There might be kids in the car.
Oh, wait a minute on that one. Here's something interesting. James, you and I were talking about this, and Kevin was too, last week, the whole Kawhi Leonard thing. And I'm just going to read from a CBSSports.com story that kind of encapsulates everything. It says the dominant story in the NBA is the investigation into whether Clippers owner Steve Ballmer circumvented the salary cap by funding a no-show endorsement deal for Kawhi Leonard through one of the Clippers' sponsors, Aspiration. And we talked about that a lot. And, does this go on a lot where superstars even circumvent the salary cap by making even more money by doing things kind of off the books? Well, now the league has opened an investigation into that matter. But yesterday, a new report from Bruce Arthur of the Toronto Star indicates that if the league expands its investigation to discussions with teams that pursued Leonard in free agency back in 2019, that they will probably find that Leonard's apparent, quote, no-show deal, unquote, with Aspiration isn't quite as shocking as it initially seems. Arthur spoke with a number of sources with the Raptors who were part of the free agent negotiations with Leonard that involved his uncle and manager, Dennis Robertson, and his demands allegedly went well beyond what teams can offer, including an ownership stake in the Toronto Maple Leafs, of all things. Like, it was just all, gimme, what can we do outside this contract to help me out a little bit?
Pacers, if you're listening, whatever you have to do to get Wemby when he becomes a free agent, you do it, okay?
The Wemby Tower instead of the Salesforce
Tower. I
Let's
still
go.
want to put a patent on Wemby to Indy because I was preaching that before the draft when they got Benedict Mathurin. But, I mean, a lot of it now, in my opinion, is very nefarious, at least on the surface. But I want to know, what will the league do? And selfishly, I can't wait until Media Day rolls around for these teams because you know who has to talk on Media Day? Kawhi Leonard. Now, he probably won't talk about this at all, but the coach, the GM, the owner, all of them are going to be asked about this. So this is a huge, huge story, and the NBA will likely have to do something, but I also don't know if they will be able to prove that they did something illegal or wrong or circumvented the cap. So it's an interesting situation for sure.
It's crazy because here's the crazy part of it. The investigation and the report in the Toronto Star said it didn't end there. As one source put it, when told about all the corporate sponsors in Toronto who would be happy to have Leonard as a pitchman, his camp responded, "Oh, we don't want to do anything. We just want the money and the endorsement deal."
Yeah, but again, like, all of this is coming out years after the fact, so did he do it or did he not? That's my biggest thing. I'm very confused by it, but I guess that's about as much as I can give Kawhi Leonard on this fine Wednesday morning.
I just thought it's interesting because it is something, being an NBA franchise, that sometimes struggles to get a lot of these free
Bring
agents.
me
This is
Wemby!
what you're up against sometimes.
We can offer him, a lifetime of St. Elmo shrimp cocktail. And
aren't the Lucas Oil naming
like
rights
that.
about ready to come off the
I
building?
was just thinking that.
Wemby Stadium.
Well, me and my rich Illinois alum, I'll talk to the guy who donated $100 million to
you
that
guys be
university
set.
and tell him, hey, throw another 50 over here for Wemby.
Yeah, you need to get on that.
Wemby to Indy, man. I need it.
Get T-shirts, Kevin. Wemby to Indy. You know a guy.
T-shirts, why not Speedos?
This is true.
I'm starting to
So-
become concerned.
On a more serious note, to move it back a little bit, I know we got to hit a break here, but I'm very curious to talk more about how will this group respond to expectations?
Pacers
Because-
group, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the Pacers and the expectations, they've changed a little bit, but at the same time, a lot of it without Tyrese Halliburton, but at the same time, they're not going to lay down. So what is the ceiling for this team? And I'm very curious to find that out. Obviously, it'll be some months before we figure that out. But to me, they're still a playoff team. And what does that mean? And how do you get there with this new look Pacers group?
We'll talk about some of that coming up in just a moment. Get back to the Colts getting ready for the Broncos as well. And the Fever in the postseason, and they've officially concluded their regular season. It's all straight ahead in the next hour, including your comments. You want to get in on it? 239-1070 on the Fan text line. You can call us up as well. We continue on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Time heals everything, and as bummed out as we were and as down as we were after the way things ended in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, I can't wait for Tyrese Halliburton to get healthy and come back next year. That I'm looking forward to. But I still kind of have the feeling that this team, Kevin Bowen, will do okay this coming year. I don't think they're just going to fall off a cliff.
Define okay.
I think 45 to 50 wins and even a playoff series win.
Oh, no, I definitely don't think that.
More than fine,
Didn't they win 50 last year?
Yeah, but they also came back from that horrific start to win 50. I mean, that was a team that, had they been rolling all year long, could have won 55 games easy.
Do you know how good Tyrese Halliburton is at basketball?
I do.
And no Miles Turner.
Which is a loss.
Yeah, that is definitely a loss, and there's going to be challenges. But I think the way this team plays, they're going to catch a lot of teams napping on Tuesdays and Thursday nights in the middle of the season on the road. The way they play, the pace that they play, they're going to win some basketball games.
Look, I think the Pacers are going to win some basketball games, but I think it's a bit of a shot at Tyrese Halliburton to act like they're going to win 50 games.
I didn't say 45 though.
To me, I think.
I said 45 or 50. So
This is the A.D. Mitchell 80 catch thing all over again.
Look, I'm sorry. I'm optimistic about things. What do you want me to do? I like the players on this team still.
Yeah, I also like many of the players on this basketball team, but also cannot go with the same win total from last season. I was thinking a little bit on the drive in this morning about this upcoming Pacers season. We're we definitely are less than a month away from their first preseason game, and training camp just a few weeks away. And, a guy that I'm really curious about is Jarris Walker. Former top 10 pick going into year 3. And as you start to do the domino thing, okay, Tyrese is out. What does that mean? Okay, Andrew Nembhard now becomes point guard. Okay, Benedict Mathurin now slides in the starting lineup. Those are like the obvious big dominoes impacted by the Halliburton news. Well, if Mathurin's in the starting lineup, you need a new lead guy with that second unit. Who's going to kind of be the catalyst for that second unit? And is year 3 for Jarris Walker that? You go back to that Knicks series, James, and he got a few of those DNPs in that Knicks series and then got hurt, remember?
Yeah.
In the clincher, in the Game 6 clincher, didn't play in the finals. But, what is year 3 for Walker? I'd say through 2 years, I've been more impressed by him offensively than maybe defensively. And now it's like, all right, you came out after a freshman year at Houston. This is supposed to be your senior year, if you will, in college, because if he takes a jump, which guys take jumps in the NBA, big jumps. If he takes that jump, now when you restart the Tyrese Halliburton window, maybe he's one of these guys that's more of a cornerstone piece, whereas right now, it'd obviously be way too far-fetched to commit to that.
So question, and I know we'll get into some of the audio that we had from Rick Carlisle when he joined us earlier this offseason, but a bigger key to the Pacers' long-term success, Benedict Mathurin or Jarris Walker?
Gosh, part of me almost wants to cop out and say either. I almost view, James, it as one of them will be a piece and the other one will be a trade. That's kind of how I view their situations. Now, let's dive deeper into that. Let's look at each player. Who's easier to put alongside Tyrese Halliburton? Is it Walker more than Mathurin?
It might be.
Because Matherin's a more ball-dominant guy, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe Walker's a little bit more of a, traditional sidekick and 3-and-D wing, and that sort of aspect to him. Now, obviously, Mathurin has done 100 times more in his NBA career than Walker's done.
Yeah.
From a production standpoint here. But that's kind of how I view it, I guess, is one of them will be a key piece, and the other one might have to be the dangling carrot in a trade to get you something else.
It's interesting to me because when I look at what Walker could be, like if he absolutely hits his ceiling, big wings in the NBA, those are the players that usually get you over the top. And you look at the best players in the league, they're usually guys on the perimeter with length and height, and that's what he has. But I am also curious because Benedict Mathurin, his mindset, and I do think you need a slightly crazy guy on your team, and I don't say that as a slight to him. I just mean he plays with a little more force and edge I think, than other guys on the team, and he brings sort of that competitive spirit in a different way, and it's more in your face than other guys. So, in the perfect world, you probably want both of them to take a step forward. So I'll let you, take over from there, KB.
Mark, let's dial up this clip. This is Rick Carlisle on with us. Remember the ankle injury for Jarris back in Game 6 of that Knicks series. So we asked Rick a few weeks back just kind of where Jarris was at health-wise.
Yeah, his health is good right now. That was a serious injury that he suffered in Game 6. And I think it's important to note that Jarris had a very productive year. He played, I think, over 15 and a half minutes a game. He played very effectively during certain stretches of the playoffs. He was a big factor in Game 4 at Milwaukee, where we were able to get ourselves in a position to steal a road game. That was a big deal. And he played well throughout the year. And so the big things for him are going to be conditioning, motor, toughness, rebounding, defense, and a real high degree of understanding of the importance of possession of the ball. And that's not just him, that's everybody. I think with what we're going into this year, we're going to be without a guy in Tyrese who's historically great with his ability to do amazing things on a basketball floor, creating pace, scoring, getting the ball to the rim, hitting floaters, throwing it ahead to teammates, getting assists. And with the usage rate that he has, his ability to have security with the ball and not turn the ball over is has been historic. And so our team is going to have to really develop an even greater understanding and appreciation of the importance of possession. But in a year like this that we have coming up, Jarris is a very important guy because he can play multiple positions, really including point guard. I mean, he handles the ball that well. But I want to see him be able to get a rebound at one end and put on the burners and go coast to coast with speed and attack the rim at the other. I think he has the ability to do that. So I know he's working on those things along with a lot of other things. But it took him a good 2 months before he was back on the court, going 100%. And so it's going to be an active end of the summer for him.
Rick Carlisle talking to the Fan Morning Show not too long ago. And to your point earlier, Kevin, about having two pieces like that ultimately, and maybe you have to trade one, what a great position to have to put yourself into by the end of next year, that you have to make a decision over two guys that are playing exceedingly well.
Yeah, you obviously have, I think, a couple of pieces that would be intriguing to those around the NBA. I also don't think it's very easy, though. Like right now, what do you do with Mathurin? What do you do with Walker long term? Again, they're going to be in very different roles this coming season, and evaluating them in the different roles, I think, also complicates it because theoretically, when Tyrese comes back, you're not necessarily asking them to be in those roles.
It's going to change
anymore. So, this is such a fascinating Pacers season.
And Nembhard's role changes too.
Sure. And an 82-night point guard is a lot different. We've brought this up before with Nembhard, and I know Rick hit on it with us a few weeks back. There are nights where you play Atlanta, or you play Memphis, or you play the Knicks, and you would say, Andrew Nembhard, all right, Trae Young, Ja Morant, Jalen Brunson. You can't give him those assignments anymore. Not with the point guard duties that you're going to ask of him. Guys in the NBA just don't do that for 40 minutes a night. And Rick, I think, has been very outspoken and we've got to protect him. He brought up the foul trouble with us, of how many times does Andrew Nembhard, hit that first, timeout, he's already got a foul. Or maybe he gets 2 in the first half. Whereas Tyrese, and, obviously he's a much different defender, much worse defender, is not in that same sort of foul trouble there. So I think it's going to be a super interesting Pacers season for fans to watch. And then I think internally as a franchise, I think it's also going to be just kind of difficult to gauge and project guys into the next Halliburton window, because that's kind of where you're looking at. Age 27 to 32. That's kind of where you're looking at the next Halliburton window. All right, who are the puzzle pieces for that window? Siakam's probably not going to be the guy for that whole window. So who else? Obviously Turner is not. So who else is there? Neesmith, Nembhard, Matherin, Walker, Furphy. I'm sure I'm forgetting people right now, but those are some of the names that you would look at. One of those centers.
Let's talk about Furphy for a second, too, because he had a terrific summer league. There's no question about that. But just listening to Rick talk about him, you sense genuine excitement about what's possible with him.
Certainly. But again, where are the minutes?
Right.
Where are the minutes? Which, when healthy, that's obviously a great, great problem to have. Naturally, some of that, I think, will happen. The weird thing with this, James, is I felt like I've watched Walker and Furphy through the first couple of seasons. I've honestly been more impressed by Furphy doing other things than I have Walker doing other things. Like Rick just laid out motor, toughness, rebounding, defense. I'm waiting for more with Walker in that area. Whereas with Furphy, I feel like I've kind of seen that. I mean, we all saw the infamous dunk, but like when he's gotten in the NBA games, I'm like, damn, there's Furphy making a hustle play, like doing some. If I remember correctly, I think Rick dropped the name of Ben Shepherd in complimenting Furphy. Well, we know how Rick thinks of Ben Shepherd. That's like, compliment a son. So, again, where does Furphy kind of crack the rotation, I think, is another little storyline here.
Yeah, and as we talked about, whenever your roles are very defined like they were last year and they change seemingly overnight because of the Halliburton injury, yes, you'll have all offseason to kind of carve it out, but I would just say to those out there, there's a reason why those roles were what they were. For example, when Tyrese went down in Game 7, unfortunately, you got people saying, well, T.J. McConnell, he was cooking and then he kind of cooled off, and why he couldn't just keep that up the entire game? Because he's not a better player.
That's why he's back.
If he were, he would be a starter. And that's no shot at T.J. McConnell, one of the best backup point guards in the NBA, one of the best energy guys in the NBA, and really he could just flat out hoop. I don't want to discredit him with a bunch of cliches. But, again, what does Andrew Nembhard look like when there's more on his plate? And to Kevin's point earlier, I think, again, when it comes to Halliburton, because his game isn't so much in your face as it is with, LeBron, Luka, Giannis, where they're just very dominant scorers, he makes the engine go. He is the engine of the offense. When you lose the engine, trying to redo it with other parts, yeah, it's possible, but I think it'll look a lot different, and there will be some growing pains for sure.
Do you think that there will be decisions to be made as the season goes along with Andrew Nembhard? Like, hey, tonight it's more important because he's playing a really terrific scoring guard that we use his energy more defensively and try to spread some point guard duties around?
I think you would want to, but in my mind, and the way the NBA works and how great, offensive players are, I would lean more towards him running my offense than trying to slow somebody down on defense. And because great players are going to score.
Rick's always liked two ball handlers out there.
Yeah.
Even with the second unit, he's like that. With your starting lineup right now, Matherin and Neesmith, you're 2 and 3. I don't think you really view as another ball handler. Matherin especially is a very good driver. It's definitely an area of Neesmith's game that has to show some growth. But so I think that's something to watch. And we'll see about a Neesmith contract extension. That one I think can kind of fit a little bit more. I think the Matherin one from both sides involves some complications here, but should be getting started here in a few weeks for a little training. I want to say October 1st was training camp day 1 last year, so we're nearing that, about 3 weeks away.
Yep. And as far as the here and now, we're getting ready for week 2 in the NFL. The Colts be hosting the Denver Broncos this coming weekend. We've talked a lot this morning about as impressive as that offense was for the Colts. They're going to get a test this week, James. There's no doubt about it. This is a for real defense they're going to be going against this
Absolutely.
Sunday.
Vance Joseph and those guys are no joke. I mean, they have the defensive player of the year over there in Patrick Surtain, the second, and then Nick Bonito, like I said, second team All-Pro last year. You remember the pick 6 he had against the Colts, which I guess technically wasn't a pick 6. It was kind of as a fumble because it was a backwards pass, but nevertheless, we all remember that play, and you don't want to see that again on Sunday, that's for sure.
I think Shane Steichen is a very good offensive coach. I think he maximizes his offense very well. I cannot believe the stupidity in that play call. I was thinking back on that the other day. Can you think about that? With the season on the line, you rely on Anthony Richardson to complete a pass to A.D. Mitchell first. That was the first part of the play.
Yeah.
Then you need A.D. Mitchell to then throw the ball back to Anthony Richardson and also complete a pass. Like, is there any more of a, I draw this up on a whiteboard and I think it's genius and I don't care if Anthony Richardson is an inconsistent offensive player and I don't care if A.D. Mitchell is also an inconsistent, like, how in the world did Shane Steichen think that was smart?
Didn't work out.
I remember.
Didn't work out. It ended your season.
So my reaction, literally in the press box, you know, you can't like scream or clap or react like that.
You had to have mouthed something under your breath.
No, what I did was, and this is true story, we're in the press box and the play happens and I just stood up and like put my hands on my head and then sat back down real quick because I couldn't believe that happened. And it wasn't like cheering or jeering. I was just.
It was. I don't believe.
I was honestly shocked. I
don't believe what I just saw. But in the
there
reverse,
was an audible gasp by everyone involved, and
I don't believe what I just saw.
And I remember thinking, afterwards in this locker room, I have to find two people, Jonathan Taylor and A.D. Mitchell. Like both of you got to answer for this. And unfortunately for A.D., he was kind of put in that position by his coach. He should never thrown that pass.
I don't blame Richardson or A.D. at all, really.
I blame. I can't absolve the player completely.
Don't put him in that position.
I understand, but see the play. The man got the ball. He spun it and got it on the seams and was taking his time. And I'm like, A.D., like this is all timing, brother.
You get what you ask for.
That's true, but you still have free will as a player to not throw that pass. So I can't absolve him completely.
Empty set. Richardson throws it to Mitchell. Mitchell behind the line. They're throwing it back to Richardson. It's picked off. Oh, no. He threw it back to Richardson, and it's picked off. And they're going to go the other way, and they're going to score a touchdown. Denver intercepts the throwback pass back to Anthony Richardson, and knifing in there is Nick Bonito. He takes it to the house the other way on a pick six, and the Broncos now are up by 2 scores, 23-13. There's also a flag at the 8-yard line.
Matt Taylor wanted to swear right there.
I mean, again, I think Shane Steichen is a very good offensive coach, and I more or less said this to Shane. Like, what?
Does Nick Bonito get his massive extension without that play?
Didn't he do like the Marshawn Lynch into the end zone?
He did. He got fined for that.
Have you watched Nick Bonito play? He can just flat rush the quarterback.
This is a dangerous one here from Fitch, going back to the Pacers here. He goes, do you think Pacers fans would rather have the Pacers sneak into the play-in game, 7-8 seed, or get a top 10 pick?
Ooh.
Tell you what, Pacers fans got used to winning last year.
I was going to say.
And they like the taste of it. But
it's never really been the Pacers' MO, though.
If you look at the house, it's definitely never been the Pacers' MO. Hardly ever, really. But if you're going to restart the old Halliburton window at age 27 to 32, top 10 pick might look pretty good, right?
It would, but I'll have to lean towards them getting to the playoffs. I think when you build a culture like you have over the last couple of years, and
culture is better than players.
In this instance, probably because the way I look at it
culture is always a good word when you're winning.
And that's what they're doing. That's my whole point.
Right, like, but are you going to keep on winning when Siakam is not in that window and Turner's
no
longer
I mean for
with
this upcoming
you?
season. I don't know about years down the line, but for this upcoming season, to answer that question, I would lean more towards them sneaking into the playoffs because I just don't see them being in a position where they haven't. I mean, a couple years ago you won 25 games, and now you're in a position to show that whatever you've invested in, you can build on that. And again, if you hit on your previous top 10 picks, you're not going to be bad enough to pick top 10 again anyway. So here's an opportunity to see what you got in Jarris Walker and Benedict Mather. And for those of you out there who already know this, all of us love top 10 picks until they get drafted and they're nothing. Like, it's a crapshoot still. Seriously.
Well,
you almost want to, like, we looked at it statistically when I worked at Any Star.
Sure.
It is almost, it's very rare for you to get a great player outside of the top 5.
But again, you don't have to use that pick to draft. You can use that pick and say, hey, this trade package is Pascal Siakam.
Okay, I see what you're doing. Okay, I thought
You know,
about that.
It's
Okay.
not just purely
That's fair.
drafting said player there. Again, I get that once you taste the winning, you don't want to go back. Nobody wants to go back, but is one little step back, do you reap the benefits down the road?
Interesting.
Especially when your expectations heading into this season are kind of like, well,
Because
we'll
what
see
is the
we can
Vegas
get.
over-under mark? Is like 39? 40?
I think so. Yeah, because if you bet 50 or over wins, like Jeff is considering, it's plus 980 for the Pacers. Let me look at
I'm
it
going
right
to have
now.
to be more precise when I say 45 to 50 from now, but okay, I'll stick with 50.
Again, this is a bigger topic. We don't probably need to hit on it any longer, but I do think it's a conversation. Obviously, internally, I don't think the Pacers are looking at it in that light at all, but I think it's a fair thing to bring up.
FanDuel has the Pacers at 37.5.
Pound that
even
over.
lower.
Pound that over.
Yeah, I would hammer that over. You imagine a 34-win Pacer team or something like that? I'd be stunned.
There's your top 10 pick.
If you go 40 for them, it's plus 145. If you go 45 wins for them, it's plus 370.
So that's $10 to win 37 for our non-gamblers out there.
We're going to need Kevin's bet for the season.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the fourth year in a row now?
Yeah, I was going to say 3 years running. This would be year 4 we have hit on the Pacers bet.
All right. Let's
You got a
check
kid
down.
on the way. You need these extra dollars.
Go, Kevin.
Don't remind me, Mark.
I'm getting close on that, aren't we?
31 weeks, I believe, Matty Bowen. Shout out to Matty Bowen. Doing an incredible job. Incredible job. Parenting, working, carrying a child, dealing with my dumbass.
And Notre Dame losing.
Oh, my gosh. Can you believe all that? Can you imagine marrying me? What? I mean.
You're a great guy. You're a great catch.
Great guy.
Unbelievable.
Come on now.
Gosh.
Go draw a poll at Jeff's house and see if any ladies would be like, would you take this man?
I was about to say, I don't want to, be going to your funeral anytime here soon, Kevin.
I'd be walking
Young, smart, terrific athlete.
walking in there with the Carmel Police Department is what I'd be doing there.
All right, let's talk about the Indiana Fever. They finished off their regular season last night at home with a victory over the Minnesota Lynx, 83-72. Lynx playing without Nafisha Caller, but 24-20. I get that there are a lot more games played now, but that is a franchise record for wins in the season. You'll take that.
Yeah, back-to-back playoff appearances for the first time since the days of Tamika Catchings. So shout out to the Fever for getting that done, especially when we all know Caitlin Clark has been out for most of the year, will not play again this season. So it's basically, can you go in there and have a little David and Goliath moment in the first round of the playoffs?
Kelsey Mitchell led the team with 18 points. Odyssey Sims had 15. Aaliyah Boston, 12 points and 8 rebounds. And they'll just wait to see who they will play on Sunday and at what time on Sunday. We'll keep our ears peeled for that. Meanwhile, the Chicago Cubs, they win against the Atlanta Braves last night by a score of 6-1. They can't win with Mark because if they beat the Braves, he's like, well, yeah, they're supposed to.
Yeah, they should. The Braves stink this year. Ask Derek in our YouTube chat, who's a diehard Braves fan. He cannot get enough of that team. He can't wait for the season to be over.
Reds beat the Padres late last night. 4-2 was the final score there. The Mariners at home over the St. Louis Cardinals, 5-3. The White Sox lost to the Tampa Bay Rays 5-4, and the Iowa Cubs scored 7 runs in the 11th last night to beat the Indianapolis Indians 7-0. Those two teams play again today at 1:35. Anything else you want to throw in before we move along to talk about the NFL?
We do have some people in the text line and also in the YouTube chat asking for an update from Camp Jeff. So
what do you want to know? We'll do that next.
Yeah.
All right. You ask questions, I'll answer. Coming up in a moment. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Good morning and welcome to the Fan Morning Show. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Jeff Rickard, and Mark Dykton over on the ones and twos there today. All right, you guys have been giving my wife and I grief about, hosting a college team 2 years ago. It was the men of the cycling team of my alma mater out in Colorado, and now this year the men are staying at an Airbnb, and we're hosting the women, and you guys have been giving us grief about that. I don't know why.
So my other question I forgot to ask yesterday was, so when they offer you which gender, do you have a say?
No, that's all decided by the coach.
No, you always got to say though. You could have said, oh, you know what, just bring the men back over.
That's fine.
And then where does the coach stay? Is the coach a man or a woman?
Coach is a man.
And he stays where?
He is staying with the guys.
So last year, did he stay at the house as well as the coach?
He stayed with the guys with us last year.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So the coach it goes where the guys go. So maybe he just wanted to be in a hotel.
I don't know.
I'm skeptical.
But we enjoy it. We enjoy having the energy and the athletes in the house. We have a good time. And like I said, they kind of do their own thing. Like last night I was running Grant around and Jake was doing homework. I got home. They were cooking dinner for themselves and having a little dinner time around the table, and everybody else is kind of doing their thing. And
so you just don't interact at all?
No, you do interact.
So
did
you get some dinner?
Well, I got some dinner. I didn't want to crash their food,
You use my kitchen. You can make me a little bit. You can make me a side plate.
First night, you just want them to get comfortable, And so, yes, we welcome them. Everybody showed them where everything is at. And we were there talking to them. It wasn't like we shunned them or anything.
Yeah, you definitely didn't shun them. You opened your doors to them. I just figured, you sit down and break bread,
Yeah, it's an Airbnb with the homeowner still there.
There will definitely be a backyard barbecue before the week is over.
My thing is,
the Airbnb with the owner still there?
How does the shower situation work? Because that's
like
a
Nick
lot of
Saban
people
there.
They got to get ready in the morning.
Does it just run all day?
Well, first of all, it only ended up being 6 women this year.
That's still a lot of people running through the shower in the hot water.
There's 2 showers for them to figure out how to work with, so they'll be okay.
You telling Jake and Grant, hey, you better get your showers in early, otherwise it's gonna be a little cold in there.
I'm pretty sure they're already gone by the time those women woke up this morning.
That's my next question.
Yeah.
So they come back from school.
Yeah.
I don't know when
Grant didn't get
women
home from
arrive.
school till like 8 last night because he had tennis practice and he had a music lesson. He had all kinds of things.
8 o'clock ain't too late now. You walking in, that's perfect time.
Now when the college girls are around,
exactly. I was a college student. 8 o'clock. I ain't going to bed no time soon.
Second he walked in the door, he had homework to do too.
But again,
he's studying something else.
I'm just trying to figure out when's the opportunity for him to ingratiate himself into this new family lifestyle, because this isn't a one-time thing. This is about a week. So he's got to get used to this.
4 or 5 nights.
Yeah, 4 or 5 nights. That's a long time to be adjusted. So I'm just curious. Did you see your sons interact at all? Say what's up? How you doing? Can I try your food?
Because they both had homework to do. They were doing homework, man.
Oh, I need to teach a lesson on this.
The dog, on the other hand, he is enjoying all the attention. He was digging that. He's getting all the attention.
Grant, Jake.
No,
I got to introduce you to some other dogs.
I was polite to them. I introduced myself. I said, hey, if you guys need anything, can I get anything for you? Feel free to do this. Feel free to do that. Show you how to work the TV, that kind of stuff. And then let them be themselves.
You're supposed to see, like, you're on our show, right? You kind of moderate us. You throw us into breaks. You throw me alley-oops and things like that. You're the point guard. You got to throw your son that assist. You can't be in there. I'm going to show you how to use the TV. You got some, hey, Grant, hey, come in here, show him how to use the TV.
Well, I'm pretty sure.
Show him what's the Wi-Fi password. Matter of fact, go in there and introduce yourself. Stand up straight when you talk to him. Come on, man.
Like a 20-year-old woman's going to be interested in a 16-year-old kid,
It ain't about the interest at all. It's just the fact that I'm here and you know that I'm in the house. And ain't enough homework in the world for me not to introduce myself. Come on, Pops.
It's the preseason. You're always working on getting your game better when the regular season starts.
Kevin is being very, very just wise and staying out of this whole conversation.
Probably sit this one out, but I hope it goes well for them. Hope it goes well for you, Jeff.
It's gone well in the past. They're great kids. They're good students. It's a lot of fun. They have great personalities. First of all, they're focused on what they're here to do, James. You forget that.
Yeah. Focus is necessary. I'm just saying. There's no way enough homework is going to be walk past my kitchen with a bunch of people in there, male or female for that matter. But yeah, I got a kick out of that. And Jeff,
we enjoy it.
Good luck.
Put a bucket of popcorn on. Say anybody want to watch a scary movie, and you're golden. Just do it. 8:30 is not too late.
Right.
Well, I'm sure they were exhausted too. They get into town at like
Nothing
2
better
o'clock
than
in the afternoon, go straight to the track and work out for 2 or 3 hours.
turning on a movie. It's a great way to relax and unwind after a long day.
I'm just trying to provide them a nice place and stay out of the way. That's all I'm trying to do. Is that wrong?
Sorority House at Jeff's is what just got dropped in the YouTube chat. So
It's the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, Jeff, and Mark Dykton. And the Colts will be taking on the Denver Broncos Sunday afternoon. And I guess we've all moved past the Miami game. But how do they keep, Kevin, that momentum going from the Miami game against a completely different defense?
Sorry, I got a little rattled there.
Yeah, Mark won't let it go.
a little pump fake there.
Mark was clipping something out. You know, we talked a little bit about it in the 7 o'clock hour of betting on Daniel Jones to be a constant or being consistent is probably unfair given the resume that he has had. It's not a resume filled with consistency or, positive, constant plays. But, what about the offensive line? If all of a sudden your offensive line, which has history of being very good, if that's a unit that can be pretty consistent, then does that impact Daniel Jones in a positive element? I mean, that is an area where I do think you can have some optimism. But obviously Denver's defense is a much different storyline than what Miami has been here and certainly showed there in week 1. So when pockets get muddier, when you get behind the chains, how does Daniel Jones react to it? And those, I think, are going to be some of the bigger questions that you have of, like a play, for example, that you saw on Sunday where, Jones scrambled on that opening drive when he got laid out by Matthew Judon. Some quarterbacks in the league, they are going to, some of the elite quarterbacks, I should say, are going to find the end zone there, are going to make a play. Oh, wow, here I am, backyard football. That's where I'm going to excel. If Jones gets put into more of those situations, does he make those plays? Those would be some of the questions I'd have going forward.
One thing I do think is worth noting that you go back to that game that Denver and the Colts played last year, and despite the play that we pointed out and how it all went down, Colts offensive line, again, Denver led the league in sacks last year. Colts offensive line held up pretty decently in that game.
Yeah, they did. And so, again, you're going to get a greater test. And I certainly think that it probably, I don't even want to call it easy because I can't say a win is easy when you dominate like that. You play very well. It looks easy for us, but to execute like that, it takes a great amount of, skill and focus. But a bigger test is coming, and I just don't think that Vance Joseph is going to, be as vanilla as I saw some of those Dolphins defensive looks, look like post-snap for Daniel Jones. And so I have a piece actually that came out on The Athletic. Please check it out for me. But in it, the way I kind of framed it towards the end is the fact that how do I say this? You've injected optimism into a franchise that hasn't had much of that in recent years, or at least they haven't been able to sustain it. And that's the challenge. It's like, do you go back to being the same old Colts? And I'm not saying if you lose in week 2, we're going to be writing you off, but that is the question. How much can you build on this? Because you have, kind of earned some goodwill after such a great performance in week 1.
Yeah. Final score in that game last year ended up being 31-13. And I'm just looking how the running game held up for the Colts in that game. Off the top of your head, do you remember?
I thought Taylor had a pretty good day until he dropped the ball.
Yeah.
That changed everything. I
mean,
he
ran for 107 yards that day.
Right. I say that in all seriousness.
Yeah. They got blown out, but they would have been blowing them out had he crossed the goal line.
About ready to go up 20-7, and then they scored 24 unanswered the rest of the way. They had a big punt return in that game as well from Mems. That Bo Nix had one of his worst games as a pro, really, against the Colts. I want to say Gus Bradley's boys picked him off 3 times in that game. So, and again, Nix did see Anarumo in Cincinnati, I want to say maybe even the very next week or a couple weeks later. So just some aspects to this game to definitely watch out for. But, the Colts played really good football for a big chunk of that game. I think that's what makes that loss so frustrating because of everything that was at stake on the road. Easily one of the biggest Colts games in the past X amount of years. You had it sitting on a platter, and then once Taylor dropped that ball, it was over.
Yeah, they surrendered 2 sacks, the Colts did in that game, 5 tackles for loss. So they weren't overwhelmed, and like you said, everything changed on one play. So you just got to stay away from that. More on the rest of the NFL, and we'll close down the show in a moment here. Get some of your texts at 239-1070. It's the Fan Morning Show at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Y'all call the soldier boy. Just gotta punch, then crank back 3 times from left to right. Soldier boy, I'm in it. Why me crank it? Why me roll? Why me crank that soldier boy? That Superman.
Mark, that's the first time you've gotten JB out of his seat today.
He's got the dance down still, too. He still remembers.
Is this when I was starting the lawnmower in training camp?
Yeah. Uh-huh. And then you did the young jock, too.
Nice. It's the Fan Morning Show with the aforementioned James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton there.
Thank
in
you
the
for that,
ones
Mark.
and
You're
twos. The Fever finished up their season last night. They got a win over the Minnesota Lynx 24-20. We got a text earlier today that I did want to point out before the show is over, Kevin, and you responded to it. It starts out, hello, my name is Jeff. I wanted to comment on the Fever game last night and the great fans of the team as well as the people who are working for the organization. Jeff says he took his daughter and her friend last night and sat in a section with fans that were probably a little bit older. People made sure to hand them foam fingers, posters, mini basketballs. The ushers were bringing extra noise sticks to kids in our section. Pretty sure every kid that sat around us went home with something that another fan had given them to make sure that they had a good experience with everything that people saw this week with the Philly Karen taking the ball away from a little kid there. It was awesome to be able to take the kids out, have fun, make sure good people made sure they went home super happy. We do have a great community of people here in Indy who know how to set by example.
That's awesome to hear. I'd like to say no surprise. I mean, my experiences at sporting events, not just Fever, whether it's going to an Indians game, going to a Butler game, anything local, great time. So that's, and I think it's cool just for, fan appreciation night for end the season on a win. And now your first home playoff game since what, 16? Is that right?
I believe so, yes, because that was the last time they made it prior to last year with Tamika Catchings.
And look, I mean, if they win, the weird thing about these 3-game series, I find it all the pressure is on the better seed right away. Yeah. Like, if it's a 5 or 7, you can play with a little bit of fire. With 3, you can't play with any fire.
No.
If you lose that first game, now your season could be over in game 2 on the road.
Well, that's the big difference this year is because last year and the years prior,
got both those games at
it's
home.
It's like, if you drop one at home, potentially you can bounce back on your home court before going to a hostile game 3. But, to your point, Kevin, it is now the 1-1-1 series where you're on the road to start as a lower seed. You're guaranteed a home game in that second game, and then you go on the road again if you force a game 3, which in our world of sports is the equivalent of a game 7. So
now I have no idea what the WNBA is doing in starting their playoffs on a Sunday. Do they realize the NFL is playing?
Preach,
that
brother.
is
Preach, brother.
Horrible time.
But the NBA has leaned into that even in their league of recent years. They never used to play on Sunday afternoons. Now everybody's got
NBA
multiple
would not
4 o'clock
starting their playoffs on an NFL Sunday. You don't touch NFL Sunday. You stay as far away from NFL Sundays as you can.
I 1,000% agree. And
Go Monday, where you're only opposite one game.
Exactly, and I get it. I mean, you want to get your schedule together. You want to keep these women playing, but
play Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. I'm like, 1 more day wouldn't hurt you, especially because you're going up against a juggernaut, and as we know,
you're going to get lost in the news cycle.
Yeah,
you're not going to get a mention.
I will not watch one minute of that playoff game.
No,
which is disappointing. Now Tuesday when they're back at home, obviously that helps out greatly.
It's a very good point you made.
Jay points out, Pacers keep the foot on the gas even if you're down a cylinder. Front office has gained his trust.
Okay. Does he have a win prediction? I was asking the YouTube chat, and we got a couple of 39s in there, a 42, slightly above 500. I think I might go 40. I think because Tyrese is good enough to be 50 wins. Not 50 wins, but 10 wins by himself. But I am curious. I don't think this team will lay down and get the top 10 pick, so to speak, Kevin. But, strange things have happened. We'll see.
No.
I think if they stay healthy, they got to be better than a top 10 pick.
I mean, 37.5 just seems so
I'm hammering that.
low.
I am too.
To me, I know we got a couple questions. James kind of putting a bow tie on the JT Tuimoloau discussion. Again, second-round pick last year out of Ohio State for the Colts. He was a healthy and active on Sunday. Basically, the Colts opted for more defensive tackles than defensive ends. So right now, JT not one of the 4 defensive ends they're dressing. Kwity Paye, Latu, Taekwon Lewis, Samson Ebukam. Based on what Lou Anarumo said yesterday, though, there's been instances, James, where we've seen rookies be inactive, and the coach or coordinator say, yes, we need more from that player. I did not get that vibe from Lou Anarumo yesterday. Yes, ideally, he'd probably be dressing over a Ebicom coming off a torn Achilles, but I think the Colts really, really like their depth there, and they don't look at this as a negative on Tuimoloau.
I would agree there for sure. And shout out to Samson Ebicom, by the way. Got missed all of last year with torn Achilles, comes back first game and gets a sack. I know that probably felt
Needs
really
to thank DeForest Buckner for
good.
that one.
Yeah, exactly. DeForest, I mean, how many sacks by proxy has he helped generate throughout his career? So we'll see again, can that same sort of confusion and disruption show up against this Broncos offense, which wasn't good in their own right.
They were not.
I want to say Bo Nix had 3 turnovers as well as, I know Tua had 3 against the Colts, and then Bo Nix is coming off a 3-turnover performance. So can he bounce back against this Colts defense, or can they continue to build on what was a great opening performance by all the newcomers, including Lou Anarumo, who obviously orchestrated the show?
It's interesting. You look at some of the quarterbacks that played really well down the stretch last year. Bo Nix was one of them. We saw Bryce Young, who was terrific the last 5 weeks for Carolina, and both those guys just took huge steps back in week 1. Were they both just riding momentum at the end of the year last year? Is this who they really are? Once again, what do you think is going on there?
Run that by me one more time.
So last year at the end of the year, Bo Nix and Bryce Young were 2 of the top, I think, rated 7 or 8 quarterbacks in the league over the last 5 weeks.
Fair, okay.
They both looked like none of that ever happened in week 1.
Yeah, I know we got to get out of here pretty soon, but I'll leave it at this. I think Bo Nix, you kind of just trust what you got in Sean Payton and what he's done. But Carolina, I think getting rid of Adam Thielen was a big, big decision. And I get you wanted draft capital, but, man, you got rid of your young quarterback's best receiver, and he struggled mightily in week 1. So I don't know where you go from there.
Yeah. We're looking forward to week number 2 for the Colts, though. A chance to go 2-0 out of the gate. We'll be talking about it all week long. Speaking of tonight, no NFL game tonight, no Fever game tonight. I know, Mark, you're probably going to be watching some baseball, but are you back to watching Netflix or baseball tonight?
Might try to finish up season 1 of Peacemaker. That is a very good show.
Netflix and chill at the Dykton house.
Hell yeah. If the kids go to bed early, you never know what could happen out there. No, we'll probably watch some baseball as well. Ashley's working late, so.
What about you, JB?
I am in the midst of having to figure out what I'll be writing for the rest of the week, so that's probably what's on the agenda after practice today.
All right, Kevin?
Probably playing with some of Max Bowen's birthday presents.
There you go.
He loves his binoculars. The shout out to $10 binoculars.
They're silent.
They are dead silent. Got one of those battery-powered leaf blowers, which isn't too loud. Cannot wait to do leaves in the fall, and I didn't know you could find so many dinosaur gifts, but we have them.
Putting him to work for his birthday. Gotta love that. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning at